This video is sponsored by Surfshark. You ever been surfing through Netflix and wish that they had a wider variety of anime as well as Dragon Ball in their lineup? Well, they actually do, but it's in Japan. Now, you don't have to travel all the way to Japan to get this premium content, to get access to Dragon Ball and various other anime that the US Netflix library just doesn't have. All you need is Surfshark, a VPN that unlocks the 15 largest Netflix country libraries, connecting you to their servers with a click of a button, unlocking all this content on all your platforms, computers, phones, smart TVs, and more, while also securing your data with industry-leading measures by using uncrackable encryption with the most secure VPN protocols so nobody catches you in 4K. Get Surfshark VPN at the link in the description below and enter promo code BlackScape for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. Don't wait now to watch Dragon Ball on Netflix. Trust me, it is the superior streaming experience. I recommend it highly.
Prepare yourself, dancing.
So we begin this Dragon Ball fan manga with CAULIFLA pushing herself and powering up Super Saiyan 2. She is in the middle of training Super Saiyan 2 and trying to get it to go as far as she can go, and she is struggling. But I do love the artwork that is at play here. The artist, he is fantastic, and I actually got a chance to talk to him for a little bit through DMs on Twitter, and we had to kind of translate each other's messages a little bit, but he was very cool, and this artwork is fucking fantastic. I just love the design that CAULIFLA has. She has the design of a fighter. She has that Super Saiyan 2 Gohan female version design, but with a little bit extra flair to it, and I just love it. But at the end of pushing herself, her Super Saiyan 2 self, beyond her limit, she realizes that she cannot attain and push past this. She cannot attain Super Saiyan 3, and she is understandably upset. Everything that she has gained up to this point has been really easy, like super easy, no pun intended. But now Super Saiyan 3 almost seems entirely out of her grasp, and it actually could be. But the thing about CAULIFLA is she does not give up very easily or at all, and she has that trait similar to Goku. So while she's already out of breath, she's got all her strength that has left her, she decides, no, I'm gonna jump right back into it, I'm gonna get back into this and train more, and she jumps right back into Super Saiyan. Goku realizes he needs to show her something and blows up into Super Saiyan 3. And CAULIFLA immediately realizes the difference in power, and she even senses that he is far more angry than her anger in Super Saiyan 2, and Goku confirms it. He says that in this state, he's many times more angry and channeling that anger than CAULIFLA was in Super Saiyan 2. Goku explains that in the afterlife is the first time he went into Super Saiyan 3. What he ended up doing was he pushed the level of Super Saiyan 2 as far as it can go. He trained with Super Saiyan 2 as long as he could, and then eventually he pushed into Super Saiyan 3. But that is because the separation of mind and body is a lot easier. His spirit training is a lot easier in the other world, in higher planes of existence, as opposed to the lower planes of existence, which are mortal realms, which would be Earth, which would be the planet that they're on right now. It is much harder to go into Super Saiyan 3, if not impossible, while you're still in this plane of existence, but it is so much easier to do it in higher planes of existence, and that explains the hyperbolic time chamber. And this is not mentioned in the fan manga, this is mentioned in the tweet from the fan manga, from the creator. He talks about how he saw the planes of existence, the hyperbolic time chamber, and the other world as higher planes of existence, easing the transition and the evolution of Super Saiyan 2 into Super Saiyan 3. So that's why Gotenks could achieve it so easily, because he was in a higher plane of existence. And Goku tells her that it may be impossible for her to go into Super Saiyan 3. And that is when Caulifla realizes, is it impossible to go into Super Saiyan 3 for me? Is that transformation only for you? And then she had an epiphany. She goes, well, you know what? If Super Saiyan 3 is for you, I'm going to find my own Super Saiyan transformation that is unique to me. And in the meantime, she's going to learn as much as she can from Goku, and Goku is happy to hear that. But before he trains anymore, he needs to go get something to eat. King Kai is being asked by Goku to train Caulifla, and King Kai actually agrees. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll go ahead and train her. And Caulifla's a little confused. She's like, is this cockroach really your teacher? Is this who this guy is? And King Kai obviously is a little upset by that, but he's going to like let it roll off. Obviously, he's had to deal with a lot with Goku, so he's going to let Caulifla slide. So he says there are several conditions in learning Kaioken, and for each person and each race, it is affecting them differently, and some people can't even do it at all. And so the way he explains it is that Earthlings are actually far stronger than King Kai himself. They have more energy, they have more damage, they can do a lot more. The only issue is that their bodies cannot sustain Kaioken. Then he goes and explains with Vegeta. Vegeta is as strong as Goku in every sense, and he's in the similar wavelength as Goku, so Vegeta actually can learn Kaioken. Now, on the contrary, Gohan only gets insurmountable access to his unimaginable power during a crisis, and if he's not in crisis, he doesn't get that power, and unfortunately, King Kai's like, I don't think that he can learn it. So right there we have the differences between not only just Earthlings and Saiyans, but different people in different species groups. Because, as I've always suspected, the Earthlings are powerful, and they're more powerful than King Kai physically and probably energy-wise, even though King Kai is a higher deity. But King Kai has more abilities, and he's got all this learning and all these hacks and different things like that. But even though he's still acknowledging that they are stronger, he's still saying that they are not strong enough to learn Kaioken. Their bodies cannot handle the stress upon it. Vegeta is just on the same level as Goku, and so Vegeta can learn Kaioken. And then the way they described Gohan, it was like, this is everything that Gohan has ever been. He really only gets huge bouts of energy when he's in crisis mode. He's really the main character that does that, and so he is not a suitable vessel for Kaioken. He is not a suitable candidate. He cannot learn it. King Kai goes and says that Goku was the fastest person I ever taught the Kaioken to. He tells Caulifla, I see you have abilities and powers similar to him, but it may hurt you to do Kaioken. It may be a huge risk to even learn it, but I believe that you can. Now the next part is very, very interesting. It's King Kai thinking to himself as Goku is happy that Caulifla is excited to learn a brand new ability. And King Kai's thinking she is actually a rare Saiyan just like Goku, an unusual breed. She may go down the same path he did. So this whole setup really has me intrigued as to Goku training Caulifla, Goku training Broly. Goku could be a master to everyone. He knows so much, even though he's still a student of martial arts. I mean, everyone says that the final learning lesson is teaching. And he could learn a lot from himself and from his students if he were to teach like Caulifla or Broly. And I love this fan manga, the way it represents Caulifla. Caulifla's just eager to learn, and the way she looks is just extremely cute. But yeah, she is eager to learn, and she's eager to know everything that Goku has to teach her, and she's just excited to be there. And the fan manga ends with Goku leaving Caulifla on King Kai's planet. So basically, Goku leaves Caulifla in the other world, and Goku tells King Kai, I'm only gonna come if there's trouble or there's an issue or I need to get to her, and I'm gonna come and grab her. But besides that, Caulifla is ready to start her training with King Kai. Once they arrive, Vegeta and Kaba are understandably surprised to even see them, and Goku's surprised to see Kaba, and that's when Kaba's like, you know, it's been a long time since we've seen each other, and he ends up bowing to Goku, and Caulifla jumps right in and asks why Kaba is so messed up. Why did he have so many scratches? Like, what is this training that he's doing that he's in such a bad shape? And then she looks over at Vegeta and says, so you're Vegeta. She tells Vegeta how she has a lot of respect for Kaba because Kaba is the one that originally showed her how to get more power. He is technically her first master. He taught her how to go into Super Saiyan, so she tells them that she's got a lot of love and respect for Kaba, but when it comes to Vegeta, she never actually saw him fight or was even looking at him or aware of his existence during the match. She says that she doesn't even know if he's got power, and if he's going to be Kaba's master, then he should have sufficient enough power to train him. She explains how Goku went into Ultra Instinct Omen, went into Ultra Instinct, and got way more powerful throughout, showing his power, showcasing it throughout the tournament. But unfortunately, Vegeta, he wasn't anywhere to be found for her, and she didn't see anything special about him throughout the match, throughout the Tournament of Power. And that is when Vegeta starts laughing. And Caulifla's like, "Why are you laughing, man? Do I look like a joke to you?" Vegeta tells Caulifla that he noticed her. He noticed her through the Tournament of Power, and he was surprised that there was such a strong female Saiyan in Universe 6 or in existence at all, that a Saiyan like this, of this caliber, could become this powerful. And this was as big as a surprise to him as originally Goku was when he first fought him, a good Saiyan. And that is when Caulifla completely changes her tune and says like, "Wow, you're exactly what Kaba was talking about. You're very stern, strict, straightforward, and direct and surly, but you're exactly what he explained." And Kaba's like, no, I never said anything like that." And then Vegeta's like, "You called me stern?" She's like, no, I never said anything like that. And that's when Caulifla starts stretching, and she's like, "You know what? I like somebody that's extremely direct like you." And that's when she transforms into Super Saiyan 2 and goes, "Why don't you show me your full power?" And Vegeta turns into Super Saiyan 2 as well and says, "Wow, so you already have Super Saiyan 2, huh? This is going to be interesting. Let's fight." Kaba explains how he has really not seen Vegeta this interested in a fight in a while, and Goku says, "Wow, Caulifla sure has gotten way stronger than when I first met her." Now we have Caulifla about to fight Vegeta in the gravity room. Caulifla has just challenged Vegeta with Goku and Kaba as spectators. They're gonna watch this fantastic matchup. Caulifla attacks Vegeta with a flurry of blows extremely fast, and Vegeta dodges each and every single one. And at this point now, we see that Vegeta, yes, he is only in Super Saiyan while Caulifla is in Super Saiyan 2. Kaba remarks as he says, although Caulifla should be stronger as a Super Saiyan 2, she can't seem to land a hit on Master. And Goku reiterates that they are brand new to the whole Saiyan, Super Saiyan training side of things, so she thinks because she's Super Saiyan 2, she's gonna land a hit on Vegeta. But since they just found out about Super Saiyans and they're really novices at this whole thing, she is missing the big picture here. She is missing the point. So what exactly is the point as to why a Super Saiyan 2 cannot catch a Super Saiyan? And that is the obvious answer. Because they are fighting in the gravity chamber, Caulifla has not realized that there is 50 times normal gravity going on right now that Vegeta was training under with Kaba. She doesn't realize it, so when she's in Super Saiyan 2, she's 50 times heavier and less experienced in that heavy gravity. So she's trying to catch a Vegeta who has been training in this for probably over a decade. And so even at Super Saiyan, he's extremely capable of dodging all her punches, and she is such a novice that she does not realize that she is basically under so much weight, which is so crazy to even think about. But I love that they went this direction, that she jumped in head first. She's headstrong because she is excited that she's got Super Saiyan 2. She wants to fight Vegeta, and Vegeta is making a clown out of her, and she is definitely a clown level right now because she is upset that he is dodging all her attacks. And that's when Vegeta finally steps up and tells her what time it is. He tells her to stop fighting him because she thinks that Kakarot expects this of her. He goes back to normal level, he goes back to base and tells her that she is disappointing him. She cannot defeat him with this level of power. And the fact that he can go just into his base form and fight a Super Saiyan 2 in Caulifla speaks volumes as to how far apart their experience levels actually are. He drives the point home by saying if this is your limit, then you will be this weak for the rest of your life. And he obviously is not talking about her power. Obviously, in the last chapter, he was remarking out how powerful she was, how much innate potential she had, and how curious he was as to see her depths or her abilities. But he is talking specifically about her battle prowess. Right now, she's not paying attention to anything besides Vegeta and fighting him and defeating him. She isn't aware of her surroundings or where she's at, isn't aware at all as to how much gravity is on her body right now. And this insult is way too much for her to bear, even though she was talking cash money shit in the last chapter, and she attacks Vegeta head on, full force. And this is how you can tell in just 2 panels that not only is Caulifla really powerful, really strong as a Super Saiyan, but it also shows the level of training and expertise that Vegeta has as a Saiyan warrior, because she, as quick as a Super Saiyan 2 is, and you guys know how quick they are, she flies at him trying to hit him, and he has a split-second decision to transform and block at the same time, because remember, he's in his base form, which he totally does. He still goes back into Super Saiyan, not Super Saiyan 2, but ends up blocking her twice and then flips her over. She is flipped in midair, grabs her by the leg, and by the leg flips her upside down, and she is just dangling there. And at this point, only at the point where she has lost, Vegeta, in just that split second, went into Super Saiyan, flipped her around, then went back to base. She finally realizes there's gravity. There's a lot of gravity in this room, and it's pulling her down because she's upside down now. She can feel it pulling her to the ground while he's grabbing her. And this is where Vegeta shows that her little slights, her insults in the last chapter really got to him, because Goku remarks that he isn't being an adult about this, he isn't handling this correctly, and he must have gotten really angry after she provoked him in the last chapter, and she is basically done for at this point. She's dangling by a thread. I don't see how she's going to get out of this, but we catch back up in the gravity chamber, and Caulifla is upset. She is mad, and right now the advanced gravity in the room, yeah, that's kind of pissing her off a little bit, because not only did she get completely destroyed in the last fight against Vegeta, she didn't take into account the fact that she's not used to, her body is not used to, the gravity room. Now, Kaba, being a fellow Universe 6 Saiyan, he tries to console her, and Goku tells Vegeta, you didn't have to bully her like that. Vegeta comments on the fact that he didn't have to, but again, she didn't have to dress in such an undignified manner. Now, what is he talking about? Well, he's talking about this image right here where he's holding her upside down. It doesn't seem like she's wearing a bra. It doesn't seem like she's wearing much of anything, so almost positive that Bulma would not like Vegeta hanging out with a girl like this. That's when Goku chimes in. He's like, didn't Bulma used to dress like this also? Vegeta puts an end to that conversation. He's like, do not talk about my Bulma. But Kaba, the ever white knight sim, says that Caulifla's got a very good style, which personally to me, I think she does. I like her design, but you can see her underwear. And Caulifla's like, wait, what? And now she's gotten pissed off. Now she is getting heated, and this obviously turns into one of those classic perverted moments in any anime or manga. But Caulifla is like, if you all care so much about my body and want to see my boobs and ass, just look at them. They're not something to judge. And this panel in particular comes kind of out of nowhere, because Caulifla hasn't really acted like that in the entire chapter, the entire fan manga. So I don't understand where this is coming from, but I guess it's one of those fan servicey moments that the creator just added into this Dragon Ball fan manga, you know, to please the more cultured of us, and I don't mind it too much. Goku really doesn't give a shit whether he sees her underwear or not, apparently. But I don't think Chi-Chi would approve of Goku hanging out with Caulifla anyway. But Goku does confront her. He says, Caulifla, why didn't you go all out? And that's what I'm talking about. During that fight, which I thought she did, he asks, why didn't you go out? Because she didn't go all out. And of course, the gravity portion of the fight, yeah, that was something that she wasn't expecting, she wasn't looking for. But at the same time, she could have done a lot better. She kind of gave up a little bit too easily. And Caulifla admits that she was the one that asked Goku to help her out, which I'm curious to see how that interaction went. Did she like hit up Vados to hit up Whis to hit up Goku? Like, hey, bring me to Universe 7 so I can train? I'm not exactly sure how that went, but I'm actually infinitely curious to see how that actually kind of played out. But Caulifla has self-diagnosed her problem, and she says that she was too confident, or she was overconfident. And Goku agrees, you were overconfident. Goku tells her that, yeah, you have gotten infinitely stronger than what you were during the Tournament of Power, but you are still nowhere near Vegeta, which I like that Vegeta's a plateau. You know, I like that this Dragon Ball fan manga is saying that Vegeta isn't like on the same level as Caulifla or vice versa. Like the Universe 7 Saiyans do have a tremendous leg up on Universe 6, which in the Tournament of Power you may not have noticed it because of the way that they had Kefla and, you know, Caulifla and Kale both tag team against Goku and stuff. But yeah, there's a huge discrepancy in power between these Saiyans, and I like that this mentioned that. Now, he does say that she has confidence, but if she does not go all out against Vegeta, Vegeta is not going to take her seriously. And Vegeta chimes in with, it's okay to be confident, but don't be disillusioned with your self-confident and then become too confident. And you can see that Vegeta is remembering his actions when he was Majin Vegeta. He fought Goku and he felt like he was untouchable at that point. He felt like the Saiyans, both him and Goku, were way too powerful, and it ended up being that Goku had one more transformation as a leg up over Majin Vegeta. And then Goku reminds him of how when they fought Buu, and I think where he was going with that, because Vegeta cuts him off, I think he was going with the whole Vegeta had that inner monologue where he was talking about Goku being stronger. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure Vegeta had that monologue on the inside, but Goku is bringing it up in this fan manga, so it could be that maybe he overheard some things or something along those lines, like, you know, Goku or Kakarot, you are the best. But Vegeta says that the difference is that, you know, he wasn't in love with himself the way that Caulifla's in love with herself, which I don't know. I mean, I guess Vegeta has had some self-loathing, self-hatred, and Caulifla maybe hasn't. Caulifla really hasn't been brought down a peg to that level where, you know, she's got a lot of internal thought, at least not what we've seen, but Vegeta may be onto something. And Goku agrees, Vegeta has had that problem as well. And Vegeta loudly reiterates that it is different. He had pride in himself. Goku has pride also, but Vegeta had even more pride. That's basically what was going on with his self-confidence. Caulifla may have pride, but she has this overwhelming sense of overconfidence that swells within her that makes her love herself, and that's not really a bad thing, but that could be detrimental to her fighting. Goku says some deep shit right here. He says there's many things you can learn from our experiences. You don't need to keep searching for answers. Hit us with all you've got. As our Saiyan Juniors, I'm expecting big things, and you see Caulifla and Kaba. And now that I'm seeing the differences between these two panels, not only do I love what Goku just said, because it's something that he would have said in like Dragon Ball Z, very stoic, very heroic, very coherent, but you can see the difference between Goku and Vegeta. Goku and Vegeta are obviously in their 40s, and Kaba and Caulifla are in their 20s. Vegeta comes back with, I'm not as soft as you. Kaba, if you take this fool's advice, you'll end up as soft as he is. And Kaba agrees, but Kaba is sort of soft. He's not like Vegeta like at all. He's more like Vegeta's brother if anything. And then he gets Caulifla's attention and says, your last move wasn't bad, which if you remember from that fight, Caulifla's last move actually almost landed on Vegeta. This brings a smile to her face, and she says next time she's going to land a blow on him. And then she calls him master. And this chapter finishes with a Vegeta saying, don't get cocky. So we begin the chapter with the panel that I showed you at the start of the video. And this is probably my favorite panel in the entire series thus far, and there have been some bangers, but this one in particular is my favorite because of Caulifla's face. First of all, this is the cutest Caulifla's ever looked. This is a kawaii Caulifla face. She's adorable. But the look that she's giving Trunks and Goten and the look that they're giving her back is really funny. I don't know why I think this is funny, but this is pretty humorous. Caulifla instinctively thinks that Goten looks like a little Goku, and Goten corrects her, no, I am Goten, I'm his son. And then he asks his father, hey dad, who is this? Who is this woman that you're bringing to us? Is this someone from Universe 6? I'm gonna tell mom later that you took us to see somebody from Universe 6 and she was a girl Saiyan. That's basically what Goten is saying, about to snitch on him. Kaba asks Vegeta if this is his son also, and Vegeta's like, yes, this is my son. Me and Kakarot are essentially neighbors, and Kaba's confused because he's like, we don't ever see a Saiyan that doesn't have black hair in our culture. We've never seen one before. This is new to me. Trunks has lighter hair, he's got light blue hair. Well, until he dyes it darker blue later down the line. He explains that it is hereditary because his mother is an Earthling. Actually, Goten's mother is an Earthling as well. Caulifla finally has it. She understands why Goku brought these two to come meet her. She thinks it's a 2-on-1. She's going to face both of these kids, both at the same time, try to come out on top. But Caulifla completely dismisses the notion as ludicrous. She's like, these are two young boys and their power pales in comparison to not only mine, but some of the powers that I've bested. So there really is no point in me fighting these two. They're just weaklings. There's nothing that I can gain from versing these two. And that's when Goten and Trunks explode into Super Saiyan, surprising both Kaba and Caulifla. And Kaba's like, both of these are Super Saiyans, but they're just children. That's crazy. And they have such tremendous raw power on top of that. So Caulifla quickly realizes the situation. She's like, well, they are both Super Saiyans, I give them that. And their immense power, their intensity, is unexpected. She wasn't expecting this. She thought that they were just children. She did not think that they were going to be holding such vast power, or even have the ability to transform into Super Saiyan, or that they were warriors to begin with. And so she's surprised. She's on the back foot. But she still says that they are going to be no match for her. She can fight both of them at the same time and she can completely destroy them. There's nothing to be gained. There's nothing to learn from these two. That's when Vegeta chimes in. He's like, if you're scared, making excuses that you don't want to face these two, it doesn't have to be 2-on-1. It could be a 2-on-2. You and Kaba versus Goten and Trunks. And Caulifla is pissed. She's like, you better be joking. That's better be a joke or your idea of sarcasm. And Vegeta's like, anybody who knows me knows that I speak straightforward, no sarcasm. I mean what I say. And that's when Goku chimes in. Even though they're both children, Caulifla, they have a lot of experience, not only in combat, but dealing with other worldly abilities and techniques. They have a vast array of abilities that you aren't used to or understand. And this is one of the reasons that I brought you here, because there is something that I wanted to show you, and there is an ability and a technique that they know that I want you to see. And Caulifla is like, oh, and what's that? We begin with a fusion taking place right before Caulifla and Kaba's eyes, and as the glow clears, we start seeing that this fusion is Veku, the Walmart brand Gotenks fusion. They fucked up the fusion, and now they are the fat version of Gotenks. And that's exactly what Goku says. Goku says, I think you guys messed it up. And Veku says, oh, well, it's been a while since we've done the fusion. Knowing they have to wait a half hour, Vegeta's like, listen, Kaba, let's go ahead and spar and train and have a battle while we wait for them to end the fusion, then we can come back. But we can't have a battle here. Let's go somewhere more secluded where there aren't any buildings or people in the way. And that's when Kaba and Vegeta leave. Caulifla asks Goku what they should do now while they wait, and Goku's like, well, we could go follow Vegeta, go to where they are and spar there, train there, but unfortunately Veku here can't really move fast, he can't really fly in this form, so we're kind of stuck here. And just as a side note, I know that Gogeta's fat form is called Veku. I don't think we ever got the name for the Gotenks variant, but I rather call him Veku than Fat Gotenks, so I'm just gonna call him Veku. So Caulifla's understanding the fusion a little bit more just by seeing it done, even if it's done incorrectly, and she states that it seems like a coalescence of two different bodies into one, very similar from the Potara, but it seems unsimilar from the Potara at the exact same time. Goku's like, that's exactly correct. Unlike the Potara, there are quite a few conditions that need to be met in order to complete and do the fusion dance 100% correctly. There are things that need to be done, there are poses that need to be done, and there are variables that need to be accounted for, but this is the mortal version of fusion. You don't really need the earrings from the Kais, from the gods, to be able to do this. So this is something they can do on hand, and to me, it's a more viable solution than having a Kai give you earrings that, if they break off, then you're out of the fusion. And that's when Caulifla starts mimicking some of the poses that she saw Goten and Trunks do, but she's not doing them correctly still because she's just mimicking them. And Veku's like, I didn't realize I looked that uncool. Goku explains that he'll teach her some poses later because that is probably the most difficult part of the fusion dance, the dancing part, but you need to get the basics down just right. First of all, everything has to be symmetrical, not only the poses, but similar heights and the power outage. The actual output of energy and ki from each individual needs to be exactly the same, so it is a very high form of fusion. It's a huge technique that not anybody can just master. That's when Caulifla asked a question that we've all probably asked ourselves at some point, and she's like, well, since I'm about the same height as Kale and Kaba, does that mean I can fuse with either one of them? And this question has Goku baffled. He's like, well, I never asked if you needed to be the same gender or the same race. When the Metamarie taught me this, I really don't know the answer to that. Only me, Vegeta, Trunks, and Goten are the only ones that have done the fusion dance. And that's when Caulifla explodes. She's like, wait a minute, you know how to do the fusion dance, you and Vegeta? Goku says, yeah, but Vegeta was extremely pissed off every single time they are about to fuse. She doesn't really like fusion. He doesn't like having to fuse with Goku in order to get enough power to defeat enemies. And then that's when Caulifla's like, listen, I have an idea. I was hoping to be able to fight Gotenks, but unfortunately they messed up the fusion. I want to challenge you and Vegeta as a fused person. I want to challenge whoever you guys fuse to a fight. They were being taught a lesson on humility by Goku in response to the training that Goku is providing, using Gotenks as a guinea pig of sorts and teaching these two Universe 6 Saiyans the value of the fusion dance, how the fusion dance is different from the Potara fusion and some of the pros and cons to it. But unfortunately, the fusion didn't pan out so well because Goten and Trunks haven't done the fusion in quite a while. So being dismayed with this fusion, Caulifla vowed that one day she will fight the fusion between Goku and Vegeta. One day she will fight Gogeta. And I think that's gonna happen somewhere down the line, probably in a few future chapters. So I'm really excited and the hype is for that, even though I don't think that Caulifla stands a ghost of a chance. So we begin this chapter with Vegeta promising to fuse with Goku, which is a huge moment for the character because Vegeta has always been one that does not like the fusion at all. He didn't want to fuse with Goku to begin with in the Buu saga. He didn't really want to fuse with him in the Goku Black saga, and in Broly he also didn't want to fuse with him, even though he still ends up fusing. This is the first time, well, in Dragon Ball fan manga anyway, this is the first time that we've seen Vegeta being willing to fuse with Goku. But why is he so willing? That's the big question. Why does he not care about the pride of not fusing anymore? Well, this is the reason. Goku is super excited, even though in the Buu arc he really didn't want to rely on fusion, but he seems to have changed his mind after Dragon Ball Super, and he wants to fuse with Vegeta to become Gogeta, and he tells Vegeta that, "You're not going to change your mind on this?" And Vegeta tells him, "No, I will not. If this is what it takes to motivate them, then I will do it." So he is doing it solely to motivate Kaba and Caulifla to become stronger. He is truly taking up his role as a mentor and a teacher, as a master for the Universe 6 Saiyans, which is a great storyline for Vegeta to go toward. It's a great moment of growth that we saw develop throughout Dragon Ball Super, starting with the Universe 6 tournament when he taught Kaba how to go into Super Saiyan. But Vegeta realistically doesn't think that it will even get to that point, that these Saiyans will even get to the point where they are going to fight Gogeta, because he says during this fight right now, he doesn't see how Caulifla and Kaba can win. So we are in the middle of the fight between Caulifla and Kaba versus Gotenks, with Caulifla affirming that she will eventually do this fusion. Gotenks is in his base form, and he says that it has been 5 minutes, only 5 minutes since the battle has started, since the fusion has started, and not one shot, not one hit has landed on Gotenks. They are missing everything, and they seem to be wore out already. So the power of 2 Super Saiyans, even going as far as Super Saiyan 2, is nothing compared to the fused power of 2 little kid Saiyans in a base form. He's not even in Super Saiyan. And so Gotenks begins to talk shit. He says it's amazing at the cooperation between your fighting relationship, but it's nothing compared to the fused power of Gotenks. And Caulifla's like, "Stop trash talking, seriously." Kaba agrees with him. He says that they can attack him over and over again together, but there is only so much. There's a limit as to how much damage and how much cooperation and coordination they can do together against this ultimate fused being. So basically, Kaba's saying that together attacking him at the same time is not working. Caulifla comes up with a plan. "I'll attack him head on, and you will be support, fighting from a distance, shooting him with Ki Blast." And Kaba agrees that's a good plan, but he couldn't touch him earlier with the Ki Blast, so he has doubts that he can do it right now. But if he hits him with a big enough Ki Blast, he will actually be able to do a little bit of damage to him, but he needs to stand still, and Caulifla agrees. Caulifla says that, "I will keep him busy and you hit both of us with your blast. I don't mind if you hit me. I don't mind getting that battle damage," and that seems to be the plan. Kaba agrees. "Caulifla, attack him with everything you have, and I will hit him with the biggest blast that I can provide." And that is the strategy that they've adopted. It is a good strategy if you're only trying to hit Gotenks, but I don't think it's going to stop him because he's still in base form. He's got so much left, unless they really give him a finishing blow in base form where he can't really transform to Super Saiyan. But as of right now, they haven't landed or hit anything, so I highly doubt it. Now, if they're going for just trying to do some damage and that means that they won, then this is a viable plan to deal some damage to him. Gotenks continues his roast by saying, "Is the strategy meeting finally over? Because it's time for this show to get on the road. Let the games begin. You know what? This may end before I even have to be pushed into going Super Saiyan, so this fight is already over." Caulifla explodes into Super Saiyan 2, and she tells him, "You're not half bad, damn Saiyan." Kaba attacks with a flurry of Ki Blasts, and these Ki Blasts are easily dodged by Gotenks. He is just evading every single one, but as he is focusing on Kaba, he almost misses Caulifla, coming in from behind and almost smashing him in the head. He completely dodges it, and the fighting continues, with Goku and Vegeta spectating the battle and commentating on it. Goku realizes that with his new revised plan, they are actually moving a lot better than they were before. Their coordination seems to be a lot better than it was before. Vegeta sees that Caulifla is restricting Gotenks' range of movement, and he is stopping him from moving around too much, exerting all his abilities, all his strength, all his speed, while Kaba is keeping him busy from a distance. So Gotenks has to really fight two different battles at the exact same time, which is different than him being able to block and dodge both Caulifla and Kaba, who aren't at sync with each other when they're both in close range. So being close range and fighting from a distance is really putting Gotenks on his toes. Now this is really interesting. Vegeta says that Kaba is part of the Sadala army, which is true. He's part of the Universe 6 Saiyan army, and so his fighting style, the way he shoots his ki blast, is very indicative of the way that he's been battling as a soldier, and it fits him very well in this moment. So I would imagine if you have an army full of Saiyans that can shoot ki blasts and have super strength and speed, they could probably hit you from very far away and destroy a lot of buildings, a lot of surroundings, and even partially destroy an army with a well-placed ki blast right through the ranks. So Vegeta definitely knows that Kaba is fighting like a soldier, and in this battle where he has to fight long range, he is at an advantage as a soldier. Goku sees Caulifla's fighting potential right away. She is absolutely extremely adept at close quarter combat, which makes sense. I mean, she really only has like the one ranged attack that we see in the anime, so it makes sense that she is more of a close-up fighter, and Goku can see that without Kaba getting in the way, she is definitely in her game. And with Kaba keeping a distance and shooting him from far away, Gotenks is really out of his element. It's only a matter of time for him to slip up and get dealt some damage, and Caulifla is really on him. Goku realizes that both their abilities, both their strengths mesh well, and he's really happy to see them fighting as one. Gotenks, who he has been fighting a little bit, he is trained slightly by Vegeta and Goku as Goten and Trunks, but he isn't like the most adept fighter with the most amount of experience. He's still like a little kid, so he is completely on the back foot, and he just finds this sort of fighting annoying because he can't anticipate which way which attack is coming in, and Caulifla is relentless with her bashing, and once he dodges Caulifla's blow, an explosion hits him from behind. Then Caulifla comes right in to take advantage of it. It is undeniable that he is at a complete and utter disadvantage in this fight now. Kaba shoots his enormous blast, the one that he told Caulifla he would try to do to hit both Caulifla and Gotenks, while Gotenks is dodging. So Gotenks sees the blast, and he is completely shook at its magnitude because he only has a split second to get out of the way, and he does just that. He blasts the ground, propelling him into the air and dodging the blast. And even he states that he was just in some immense hot water. If that would have hit him, it's a good thing he dodged out of the, oh no. Out of nowhere, Caulifla comes right behind him, yelling, "Got him!" And Gotenks cannot dodge this one, and an explosion blinds everyone. Caulifla's kick lands, but this is not the same Gotenks she kicked a second ago. Kaba says he's transformed, and boom, we have Super Saiyan Gotenks blocking the kick. And Gotenks is just like, things are getting a little bit too serious, so I had to turn it up a notch, transforming into Super Saiyan so that way he could block the kick that probably would have ended his career last chapter. With no hesitation, Kaba shoots another blast at Gotenks as he's still in the middle of blocking Caulifla's kick. So he is wide open for any sort of damage to be dealt to him. As Kaba shoots blast up at Gotenks, Gotenks breathes in and then breathes out, screaming in the process, and this scream could be heard around the world, blasting a bunch of air and all of the ki blasts right back at Kaba. But unfortunately for Kaba, today is not his lucky day because Gotenks has moved up inches away from him and punches him with intense ferocity right in the gut. As Kaba is not ready for this, he goes flying into a rock face to Caulifla's shock and horror. And Kaba is completely out of the fight. Vegeta looks down at Kaba and is like, well, this is what I was afraid of, because he basically got one-punched by Gotenks, and it makes sense. They were always afraid that Gotenks was going to go into his Super Saiyan transformation, because he was fighting in base form pretty evenly at the end with these two Super Saiyans. So yeah, he definitely brought a lot to that punch and even managed to knock him out of Super Saiyan, and Goku watches intently on what is going to happen next. Gotenks, with a really cheesy smile on his face, says, if I get really serious, then this is how it is going to end up, and this is how you are going to end up. So if you give up now, this whole thing will be over. Caulifla is obviously shaken. Look at her face. She has exhausted almost all her ki just on the attacks she was giving Gotenks before, and now that she saw that with one punch she can basically be out of this fight, she is nervous, and she says, you're crazy, because I'll never give up. Which is in line with Caulifla's character. I think that she is going to try to fight him as long as possible, basically trying to survive as long as possible until she is completely KO'd, in the same way Kaba was. And as you guys can see, it doesn't take much to KO someone when you're a fused Super Saiyan, so they have to really worry about exactly what they're going to do now and how they're going to fight Gotenks, because with Kaba down, Gotenks is going to go straight at Caulifla with full power, and he still has one more transformation up his sleeve, guys. He can still go Super Saiyan 3, so Caulifla, it looks like this is over for her, honestly. Vegeta looks at Goku and says it's over for her. She can't defeat him on her own. She's done. And Goku responds with, no, Vegeta, this is just the beginning. Gotenks is the first to attack, and he dives head first, trying to kick her using a dynamic kick, but she completely dodges him. He tries to come back again with a similar attack, this time a headbutt, and she dodges it again. And you can see even in the picture, he's got his eyes closed. Like, Gotenks is extremely powerful, but you have to like base everything on its own proper power scaling. He has raw, untapped Super Saiyan strength, right? He's extremely powerful, and he's got a huge multiplier because he's a fusion character, but he's still a little kid, and he isn't like a master martial artist. So in this fight, Caulifla probably has more experience and abilities, raw potential, tactics, and she's been training her whole life than Gotenks. But even though Caulifla is dodging all these attacks, she knows if she gets hit with one of them, she's a goner. And this impresses Vegeta. Vegeta says that it's only for a moment. She has a split second to decide, and yet she is successfully dodging his attacks. Goku knew this from the Tournament of Power. When he attacked Caulifla several times, she would instinctively move out of the way. Her dodges were extremely fluid, and that's something that she gained from not only being a battle-hardened veteran, but she's also an expert fighter, so it's her battle sense that is so heightened and gives her the edge in a battle of superior strength like this one. Vegeta understands the huge disadvantage that Caulifla is under, the fact that she is not a fusion character, she is not fused with anybody, and Gotenks is basically, it's a 2-on-1 match with an immense multiplier. So even though she's successfully dodging all of his attacks, dodging and evading is not necessarily a win, especially in this battle. I mean, ultimately it could be because of the fact that there is a time limit on Gotenks, but unfortunately they're not going to see it that way. They want to see exactly what Caulifla is worth, and running away is not it. Since Caulifla told Goku that she wants to fight against Gogeta, he thought that she would have a better chance against Gotenks. So Gotenks was testing her mettle, but Unfortunately, the situation seems that the overwhelming strength of the fusion is too much for her, so there is really no need for them to go into Gogeta, because Gogeta would be a waste and would completely cream Caulifla, and that's exactly what Vegeta thinks as well. This is obvious that she can't fight against a fusion character. He's not exactly sure why he was so confident that Caulifla could fight Gogeta when she can't even defeat Gotenks. So I guess we're not fusing then if Caulifla can't even fight against Gotenks. Goku says, extremely depressed. He wanted to become Gogeta with Vegeta, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna happen, but he gives Vegeta an ultimatum. Listen, if Caulifla ends up pulling a win somehow, then we 100% go into Gogeta. But Vegeta is wise to Goku's tricks. You're planning something, aren't you? Just then something happens that catches Vegeta's attention, and Goku looks a little bit more pleased with himself. I honestly didn't think that you could dodge my attacks, but you stand no chance against my power. You should just give up now. I told you to stop asking me that. You guys are just two brats, and I can defeat you guys all day long, says Caulifla very confidently, and of course she can't match their strength, but her battle prowess is on a different level. You know, if I catch you, it's only going to be one shot. And I have 5 more minutes until the fusion is over. Even if you think you're more experienced than me, you should just take the loss and admit defeat graciously. Caulifla responds that the difference in power is obvious, and that she cannot do it alone. And Gotenks admits that it was always going to end up this way because she is essentially fighting 2-on-1, and they were going to defeat her regardless. So the result was always going to be the same. And that's when Caulifla looks up in the sky and says, yes, you made it just in time. And that's when we see Kale coming in hot. And as she descends, she transforms into a Super Saiyan, and as you guys can see, she has one Potara earring already put on. Gotenks looks confused as to who the hell this is, and he says, who's that? Another Super Saiyan? And Caulifla responds with, she is my sister, she is my friend. And I think that the way that he is describing it in this Dragon Ball fan manga is that they are like bros, kind of, and that's basically the community verdict on their relationship, that they're not actually related, they're just best friends. And Kale tells Caulifla, I will fight alone. You can rest, let me fight. Okay, alright, so I like the way this is going because not only is Kale in her regular Super Saiyan form, but this is the Super Saiyan form she took when she finally was able to harness and control most of that legendary power. So she is, at this point in time, stronger than Caulifla in her Super Saiyan form, and Caulifla has been fighting against Gotenks for a while now, so Kale realizes this and she wants to take her shot and let Caulifla rest for a little bit. So this is kind of what I was talking about. What do you guys think? Do you think that Kale in this form has a chance to fight against Gotenks? Like, can she do some damage, or is she going to have the same sort of outcome that Caulifla had? Let me know again in the comment section below, guys. Caulifla immediately refuses this. She refuses Kale to fight Gotenks alone. She tells him that she, from the beginning, just wanted to fight this kid on her own and test her own strength, and just because Kale is here doesn't mean that she is not going to do that. And Kale is kind of dumbfounded because she figured that Caulifla wanted to rest, but she's obviously going to go with Caulifla's word. If Caulifla thinks that she's still good enough to be in this fight, then let her be in this fight. But then Caulifla immediately takes it back and says, although I do admit I cannot do this alone. So Kale, I have a request from you. I have something to ask you. She asks Kale if she could lend her power, if they can fight together, and she reaches out her hand. Gotenks is seeming a little bit more worried about Kale at this point. There are only 9 minutes left in the fusion, and if he doesn't take Kale seriously, then he could actually be in a world of trouble. So he's thinking a little bit more like a competent fighter here, and he's like, maybe I should just be a little bit more serious about this fight. Caulifla says if they unite the right way, if they use the earrings, they will become the most unstoppable fighting machine that has ever been seen, and this is the way that their superior power becomes one.
and she's obviously talking about the Potara earrings. Obviously Kale brought them with her, and Gotenks just looks a little confused because he doesn't really know that they're going to fuse together. I don't think that Gotenks knows about the Potara fusion at this point. I think he only knows about the fusion dance, so he probably thinks that both these fighters are going to fight him at the same time, when in fact he's going to be fighting their fused being. Let's become one. And you see here that Caulifla and Kale both have the earrings, and the fusion is beginning. Kakarot, you're a coward. I should have known that you were going to be using the other Saiyan woman and the Potara earrings to upset this match. Goku responds that he knew that Kale was coming. Obviously, her and Caulifla are best friends, so they are basically a unit, and it was kind of weird throughout all of Goku Trains Caulifla that we never got to see Kale in action, but Goku knew she was coming. She brought the Potara earrings on her own, meaning that the Kai from Universe 6 must have given her a set of Potara earrings to bring into Universe 7 just in case they needed it. So I guess the Kais are being a little bit more frivolous with the way they use the Potara earrings. I guess everybody just gets a pair. I'm wondering who actually makes the Potara earrings. That is an interesting mystery for any Dragon Ball enthusiast, because is it the Kais? Are they the ones that make it? Or is it somebody even greater than the Kais, like the Angels, or somebody we have yet to see? Either way, she brought the Potara earrings and Goku had no clue of it. Goku was just trying to even the playing field, a voice says in the distance, and Piccolo lands right in front of Vegeta and Goku. Goku is surprised that Piccolo is here, but Vegeta catches something that Piccolo throws at him, and it is a bag filled with sensu beans. And Piccolo tells Vegeta that there are plenty of sensu beans in there, so make sure he eats what he needs to get back to 100%. Goku, confused, asks Piccolo, did you know that Kale brought the Potara? And Piccolo responds with, Goku, I know everything. Essentially, that's what he says. It's a rough translation, but he basically says that he knows a lot of things, meaning that, yeah, he knew what was going to be the outcome of this match, essentially, or he knew exactly what was going to happen. But he will explain more later, and as he says this, Vegeta is giving Kaba a sensu bean, and Kaba looks like that one blow completely took him out of the match. He looks worse for wear, and it's kind of strange to see Vegeta giving him the sensu bean, like taking care of him, or Vegeta really taking care of anybody that isn't his family, but he is giving him the sensu bean. And Kaba, he did his best. He tried and fought very valiantly with Caulifla, trying to become a unit, but unfortunately he was the first one to get struck by a full power punch and was completely knocked out. Next, we go to the actual arena, and we see that the smoke is beginning to clear, and it shows us who we know as Kefla. Kefla admits that this has gotten bad. This situation did not go the way that Caulifla had planned it, and she was wanting to use this fusion against the fusion warrior that Goku and Vegeta can make, but unfortunately it seems like that's not gonna happen, because right now if she can get past Gotenks, who is the sons of Vegeta and Goku, she stands no chance against Gogeta, the fusion between Goku and Vegeta. So right now, she needs to look ahead and look at Gotenks, because once she dominates Gotenks, then she can set her eyes on Gogeta. And that's when we get the reveal of Kefla, and more particularly Kefla in this manga style, because if you guys haven't noticed, this isn't the particular like vintage Dragon Ball Z style. It's not the regular Z style. It is more akin to a anime-ish kawaii desu, not deska style, like very cute character designs for almost all major characters, not so angular but more rounded, and that's exactly what I see with Kefla right here. She isn't as edgy or as overbuilt as I seen her back in Dragon Ball Super's anime, no, and she's not even as lean and as skinny with longer hair as she was in the Dragon Ball Super manga. She's more of a fusion between both these concepts, and she has characteristics from both. She is obviously Kefla, but she is cute looking, with a more rounded head, bigger eyes. She still has the short hair like the anime counterpart, but her limbs aren't as stocky and built. They're much shorter, they're skinnier. She still has a six-pack, but she isn't as MMA fighter looking as she was back in the anime. So it's a good mix between the two designs, and I very much appreciate that the creator DBZA decided to go with this design, and I'm just glad we finally got to see Kefla, because it's been a few chapters that we've had CAULIFLA and Kaba trying to face off against Gotenks to no avail, and now we finally get to see two fusions go at it, because she says, "You were strong, but I am far stronger," very confidently, and it doesn't even seem like she's just boasting. This seems more of a matter-of-fact way of saying that Gotenks, you are about to lose. Out of those 9 minutes, I'm only gonna need 2 of them to kick your ass. And her final words to Gotenks are, "The outcome will be the same, even if you become Super Saiyan 3. Kaba wakes up with no battle damage, and he sits up right away and feels a strength, a power that he has not felt before. In the next panel, we see Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks attacking Kefla, and Kefla easily blocking it, and it seems that Gotenks not only has some battle damage to him, but he looks exasperated, like he's been fighting for a while and not getting anywhere. And Kefla, how easily she's dodging this and blocking this, it seems that the power scaling again for this Dragon Ball fan manga is completely on point. I know I asked you guys yesterday the question, who would win in a fight, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks versus Super Saiyan Kefla? And I asked you guys because I wanted to know your thoughts on the situation and the battle and exactly what your reasoning behind your decision was. But if I had to give you guys my decision, it would obviously be Kefla, because Kefla went up against not only Ultra Instinct, but she went up against Super Saiyan Blue, Super Saiyan God, and she ended up knocking out Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who actually was damaged, but at the same time, she ended up doing it regardless. So she is an extremely powerful fighter with the total expertise of CAULIFLA and the raw power potential of Kale magnified with the Potara earrings. I think that Vado said that it was like 10 times the amount of power. So yeah, she is a force to be reckoned with, and right now she is completely dominating this fight against Gotenks. Kaba joins the others only to be surprised that the power that he felt earlier was not just Kefla, who he is actually surprised to see Kefla there. Remember, he passed out when it was only CAULIFLA. But he's also surprised to see Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. But on top of that, he is more surprised that Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks' power is beyond anything that he could have imagined, that he could even feel, because it is getting close to that Kefla power. It is rising. So Gotenks right now is the all-star of the fight, even though he is losing. And they are about to explain why. Because Kaba did not feel this rising strength from Gotenks when he was fighting him. And Piccolo explains that it is because Kaba was the opponent at the time. When he was fighting Gotenks, he couldn't feel that rising strength because he was doing everything he could to not only do some damage, but to survive, which obviously Kaba didn't. So Kaba did not feel this hidden rising strength that Gotenks is portraying right now. And Kaba's a little confused. He doesn't understand why that is. And I'll be honest, the first time I read this, I was a little confused as to what was being explained, because normally in Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, or even the mangas or the fan mangas, there's just a fight and boom boom boom, done. That's basically it. But this Dragon Ball fan manga by DBZA goes a little bit more into detail as to why things are certain ways, who is getting the advantage and why, explaining the fight a little bit deeper and the emotional fitness of both of the combatants and exactly what is going on through their heads during the fights. That's the reason that this is top tier Dragon Ball fan manga quality right here. Piccolo says that he really didn't get a good look at the fight during the Tournament of Power, but during the Tournament of Power, it seemed like Kefla overwhelmed Super Saiyan God completely, even fighting against Super Saiyan Blue and getting past that, only to fight against Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, where Goku basically was using up all his stamina and putting a huge strain on his body with the Kaioken, and Kefla defeated that as well, going into her fight with Ultra Instinct Omen Goku, meaning that the fusion itself was extremely powerful, but as Vegeta puts it, there is also this rapid growth element that is going on, not only with just the fusions, but with Saiyans as well, but the fusion specifically in this context, because what they're basically saying or alluding to here is that with both these warriors fused together, the experience that they're both getting throughout the fights is doubled. Essentially, there's two people combined, and if they're Saiyans, that is completely magnified, their rapid growth. And at the end, the rapid growth overwhelmed the not fused characters, the not fused beings, and that kept going on and on. That is the secret, the advantage to the fusions. Goku says there are various stimulations, motivations, and different stimuli that uplifts the characters and the fusion characters, making them more powerful, making them have more strength, and the fact that they are Saiyans, like I was saying earlier, makes it so that they can bring up more and more unfathomable power if their opponent is a serious, sophisticated fighter, if their opponent is a good fight. So if their opponent is a good fight, the fusion characters will get that boost. And that just seems like what happened with Gogeta versus Broly. I mean, yes, Gogeta was way stronger than Broly at the time, like he was on a different level, but at the same time, it seemed like every time Broly went up in power, Gogeta went up in power, and that is the secret to the fusions. Unless they disintegrate because of the time limit, or they use too much of the fusion power and then they just separate, they are almost unstoppable. But here we have a unique case where we have two fusions facing against each other. So finding out which one is going to win is up to the fusion character and how determined they are to win and how much power they have on the onset. So you can't count Gotenks out, because Gotenks is no exception to this rule. He is a Saiyan, he is a fusion, his power can still rise and rise and rise to try to meet the power of his opponent Kefla, and in this moment, Gotenks finally punches Kefla right in the face. Piccolo explains further that Gotenks wasn't even being fully serious when he was fighting against the demon Buu. He was playing, he was half fighting, he was just trying to have a good time. But in this instance, this is the most focused that Piccolo has ever seen Gotenks at fighting. And Piccolo thanks Kefla for allowing him to witness Gotenks basically at full power and still rising. Vegeta says that it is up to whoever has a mindset of a winner that is going to determine the outcome of this particular battle. Gotenks has finally struck Kefla, and Piccolo says now that he's gotten a taste of it, that he's hit her once and gotten past her defense, his power will gauge to that level, because his power will rise to try to meet Kefla's power, which is an interesting way to close the gap of power scaling between Gotenks and Kefla, where before I would say Kefla will win 100%, but if Gotenks keeps fighting Kefla and his power keeps rising to meet that level, who the fuck knows? Goku has the final words. If the one in front of you is beyond your limits, and you will do anything you can to reach those limits and break them, then the difference in power does not matter. But even though Gotenks is getting a boost in strength from fighting Kefla, Kefla is in a better position, because all she is thinking of right now is, I can't lose. Kefla is issuing a barrage of punches at Gotenks so fierce and so fast that all Gotenks can do is block, and he is just immobile. He cannot do anything else. And I told you guys from last chapter, when you saw Gotenks do this to her and then you saw this panel right after it, you knew that Gotenks was going to be in a world of trouble, because here he is barely reacting to what Kefla is dishing out, and Kefla saying, come on Gotenks, I thought you punched me last time, was that punch a fluke? Which it seems like it may have been. Either way, Kefla is pissed off and wants to completely annihilate Gotenks, reminding him that there is not much time left in his fusion, maybe a minute or so. So he can't just spend this entire time blocking it, because if he does, then he loses automatically. But Gotenks doesn't move, doesn't evade, he just continues blocking as the barrage continues. So at this point, Kefla is essentially fed up with this, and she decides it's time to end this and makes an energy ball that is so compact but looks so powerful that she points it right at Gotenks' face where he's blocking, point blank range. And I just gotta tell you guys, like, in this whole panel, this whole page, Gotenks looks really cute because he's like a little kid, and he's like completely underprepared as to the violence that is Kefla, the strongest Saiyan warrior of Universe 6. The blast hits Gotenks and leaves a sonic boom, destroying everything in its path. And you have with Kefla at the center of the page saying, "Don't be disappointed, you tried your best." With Kaba here on the side saying that, "Kefla, you've gone too far. That was way too much." Kefla assures him that it was a medium to moderate blast, that even though she may not have gauged it 100%, he should be fine. He shouldn't die. Which just shows as to what level of determination Kefla is at this point, because she is hitting him with blasts strong enough to kill him. So she is aware of the strength of these blasts, but wants to put an end to a powerful warrior, short of killing him. The smoke settles and Kefla looks to her right and sees a ghost version of Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. And this is my favorite panel. This is my favorite page actually in this whole fight, but this is my favorite panel where you see Kefla's face just in total shock as to what the hell this thing is next to her. And in the next panel, she starts freaking out, saying that, "Oh no, he's dead. He's actually dead. I killed him." She admits that she knew it was overkill, that attack was too much, but she was sure that he was not going to die, especially since they are the sons of Goku and Vegeta. Then she admits a little bit more that maybe she did leak out a little bit too much power and go a little bit too overboard. That's when you hear Gotenks' voice cut through the clouds and say, "I'm here and I only have 1 minute left." And it's finally time to show Kefla his secret technique. A technique that he was waiting for the right time to use, and this moment seemed like the best time because he was at his limit and Kefla could have seriously put him out of the fight permanently. He calls this move Super Serious Ghost Kamikaze Attack, and as you can see here, it's Gotenks with like an army of Super Saiyan 3 Ghost Gotenks, which are way more than he used in the Buu Saga, and that seems to be his finishing blow. And Kefla burst out in laughter, saying, "I really thought that I had killed you." The most shocking thing to Kefla is that a little runt like Gotenks was not in the Tournament of Power at all. And Kefla finishes up the chapter by saying, "You've impressed me, Gotenks." But we begin today's chapter with the onslaught of the Kamikaze army surrounding Kefla, and I think she feels that they are coming at her for blood. They are going to try to dogpile on her and do as much damage as humanly possible, and Kefla is not going to bite. She pulls out one of her signature attacks, which is continuous energy bullets, and shoots them all in different directions, attacking Gotenks everywhere and trying to get all these kamikazes to get off of her. And she realizes that the explosions are actually far greater than she first would have thought. The explosions are actually clouding her vision, and she realizes that these explosions are coming from these ghosts. They are exploding on impact with her energy bullets, creating a huge amount of commotion. And that is when Gotenks slips right by her and she barely catches a glimpse of him. And Gotenks finally catches Kefla with his energy donut, wrapping it around her and trapping her on the spot. She is completely immobilized, and now is going to be his finishing blow, which is Ghost Kamikaze Onslaught. Every single ghost that Gotenks has manifest that is still alive, that has not exploded, is aiming right at Kefla, and Kefla is essentially a sitting duck. but with just the tremendous power of her ki, she completely blasts off the donuts and they go flying in different directions. She is frustrated because Gotenks is actually doing some damage to her. The donut trapped her and surprised her far more than she thought that it would. She didn't think that there was going to be a move that could stop her in her tracks, and that was the move, and now she is pissed. But as she removes this immobilizing ki attack, she looks to her side and realizes that this isn't what Gotenks was planning. He was using not only the initial attack, the donut, and then the kamikaze barrage, all as a distraction so she would be off her guard and he could get right next to her and hit her with his finishing blow. And that's when Gotenks starts uttering the infamous or famous words, Ka, and Kefla realizes the seriousness of the situation because she remembers this move as being the move that wrung her out of the Tournament of Power, the one that Goku hit her with at point blank range. And right now Gotenks has harnessed all the ki in his body to hit her with this one devastating move that she is completely off balanced to receive. She is at Gotenks' mercy right now, and that is where we leave off in today's chapter. I definitely liked how Gotenks is using more of a subversive attack and subversive strategy against Kefla, who is undeniably a far stronger force. At this point, we realized it after the last few chapters that Kefla is completely on top and she is far stronger than Gotenks, but Gotenks has more tricks up his sleeve. Gotenks shoots a Kamehameha blast that looks actually quite similar to a Super Kamehameha at Kefla, and Kefla barely has time to do anything. She cannot dodge because he is right next to her, so she can only do one thing and try to stop it. So she turns on a dime and hits it with the palm of her hand, holding it still, holding it at bay, but for how long, who knows. And you guys can just tell at this point, because of what she said in the last chapter, that Kefla is having some PTSD moments because this is the attack that cost her the Tournament of Power. And as Kefla holds the Kamehameha still, she tells Gotenks that she has lost to this move before and she wasn't expecting to see it again and to have it be so strong from somebody who she thought was weaker than her. It was fun, Gotenks, but now I will show you my finisher because you showed me yours. And then she quickly removes her hand, and in the opposite hand she has her signature attack, who in the wiki only says it's called Gigantic Blast. I don't know if it's got another name. If you guys know the other name or any name for this attack, let me know in the comment section below, because in the wiki that's all it says. But it is the signature move that she was fighting against Goku with, and she single-handedly pushes back Gotenks' Kamehameha right back at him and off her own hand. And Gotenks even says this is too much, as both their ki attacks clash against each other, hers overwhelming his Super Kamehameha. It looks like it is all for nothing. It looks like this is it for Gotenks. But he has done the undoable. He has faced a much stronger fusion and pushed that fusion to the edge to where that fusion has to use their finishing blow as well. He actually did very well, and this manga single-handedly changes my perspective on Gotenks. I've said this before, that I am not the biggest Gotenks fan, but after reading these last chapters and reading this manga, I realized that this character has so much depth, so much that you can use in your stories, that it is a shame, it is criminally underappreciated that he was not put in Super in a big way. And when he was put in Super, he was basically put in Super to show how strong other characters were. So I definitely like the way that he was used here, and he went all out against Kefla, who, let's face it, is far stronger than Gotenks. And as both ki blasts clash, something unexpected happens. Both fusions dissolve. What? Dude, I did not see this coming, guys. So the fusion dissolves for both of them. even though they're both different types of fusions, they're both gone. So Goten and Trunks, their time limit was coming up. They had used the majority of 30 minutes, and they also only had like a few minutes left. So this whole fight probably took it all out of them. But Kale and Caulifla, they had just became Kefla. And so now I'm thinking that the Potara earrings, if you use too much power from the Potara earrings, they will dissolve your power faster, essentially, similar to what happened to Vegito, where Goku and Vegeta are fighting Samazu using a lot of power, and then they both dissolve and go back to their respective forms, because the Potara fusion seems to be far more unstable. If you use way too much power, then it will dissolve, as opposed to the fusion dance, because Goten and Trunks had the entire 30 minutes before they came apart. That could be one reasoning why they both dissolved. Another one could be that Goten and Trunks as Super Saiyan 3s weren't really using that much power, as opposed to Kale and Caulifla, who are using the Berserker power, and that may use far more power than the Super Saiyan 3 would. That also could be a plausible explanation. I like the first one better. I like to think that the Potara earrings, because they're easier to do, they're like, you just grab the earrings and put them on and that's it. Because it's simpler, there would be that side effect where if you use too much power, you won't get the 30 minutes, it'll dissolve earlier, as opposed to the fusion dance, who you have to master before you can even use, and it's something that you have to train to do, which I like that better, that you can use that power. And I mean, even if you look at it, Gogeta was able to use Super Saiyan Blue quite effectively against Broly, and he never dissolved, not once. I think the first explanation is more spot on. The easier the fusion, the more unstable it is, the more difficult a fusion is to master, the more you get that time. And after this, they are sucked into the explosion of both their ki blasts. So they may have dissolved, both of them, but their Super Kamehameha and Gigantic Blast, both of those were still hitting at each other. So when they both dissolved, I would imagine that it became quite unstable, both ki blasts, and that's why they both united and exploded. And even Caulifla goes and blocks the blast from Kale, and Goten and Trunks are both caught off guard, and the explosion blows up right in their faces, and it looks very similar to the explosion that Majin Vegeta did when he self-destructed. I would honestly give, even if Goten and Trunks don't really survive, or at least get knocked out from this explosion, I would say that Goten and Trunks won this fight because they forced Kefla to use so much power that she dissolved early. And so, if your fusion's that unstable, then yeah, I would say that Goten and Trunks definitely come out with the W on this one. The fight between Kefla versus Gotenks effectively over, Piccolo and Vegeta asked themselves why the Universe 6 Saiyans decided to come to Universe 7 to train under Goku in the first place. And moving forward, we get a flashback to when Kaba first recruited Caulifla to go on this special training mission. Caulifla is a little surprised that Kaba just asked her to go to Universe 7, and Kaba says the reason that they're going to Universe 7, or the reason that they all got invited, is because Beerus and Champa are having a delicious food showdown where they take all the delicious foods from both Earths on Universe 6 and Universe 7, and they're gonna have an entire competition with it. And because it's being held in Universe 7, Vados suggested to Champa that, hey, why not take the Universe 6 Saiyans with us? That way they can spend a little bit more time with their counterparts in Universe 7 and even train a little bit with them, learn some new things. So there you have it, guys. This competition is the reason that the Universe 6 Saiyans are in Universe 7, and that is the reason that Goku is training Caulifla in the first place. It all was Vados' plan from the very beginning to unite both universes. But why? I'm wondering, why would she go out of her way to do that? Maybe it is because she wants the Universe 6 Saiyans to be elevated to the same status as the 7 Saiyans. That way, you know, Champa has a nice little unit of Saiyans, strong Saiyans, on his team as well, so it's not just Beerus and completely one-sided. I'm assuming that's the reason, but as you can see right here, we got the answer as to why they're there. Caulifla jumps at the chance to go to the Universe 7 Earth because she wants to become a Super Saiyan 3. Remember guys, that's essentially how this whole story happened so long ago. The very first video that I dropped for this series was her trying to become a Super Saiyan 3, and that is the reason. That was her guiding light into Universe 7. Caulifla asked if Kale can come with them as well, but they would have to wait for her because she's not there right now. And Kaba responds with, Champa really didn't want to bring the Universe 6 Saiyans to begin with, so if they don't leave right now, Champa will leave them all behind. Caulifla sulks because, you know, she's gonna basically leave her sis behind, and it's kind of fucked up, but at the same time, she wants to see Goku. She cannot miss this chance to see Goku again. And she apologizes softly to Kale, who really can't hear her. She's somewhere else on planet Sadala. They are now in the cube, the same one that Whis used to transport everybody from Universe 7 in the Universe 6 tournament, and Caulifla's just looking around saying, so this is how we travel between universes, and Kaba's excited because he's actually ridden one of these before. Caulifla says the obvious, if this is such an easy flight between universes, why don't we just do this like once a month? Why don't we just go over there to train with them every so often instead of not seeing them for such a long time? But Vados assures her that it is unusual for gods to meet this often. They don't normally do that, and so every instance that we've seen in Dragon Ball Super, that was a rarity among the gods themselves. So she says to Caulifla, just think of this as the very last time that you will be able to go to Universe 7. So I'm not sure if Vados is saying this 100%, but it seems that she's being legit, that this isn't a normal thing. But that just makes me want to bring Kale more, and Caulifla's feeling a little guilty that she left her best friend behind. Vados genuinely curious, wait, Kale wants Goku to train her? And if only Vados knew the half of it. You guys know. You guys know. But for Caulifla, this is a story of revenge. Revenge against Goku for defeating them in the Tournament of Power. Surprised, Kaba says, so you're after revenge against Goku? And Champa chimes in saying that if you're after revenge, you would have to defeat Goku's various forms, and all those forms are stronger than you. Caulifla understands this, and understands that she cannot defeat Goku on her own, not right now. Vados understands and says that Caulifla only seen a few glimpses of all the power that Goku had through the Tournament of Power. How can you defeat him? And with Caulifla, it's simple. She can learn this stuff too. She is a Saiyan just like Goku is a Saiyan. She can learn all his transformations if she just knew exactly how. If she had a well enough teacher or enough drive to push herself to do so, which she does. She lived her entire life thinking that she was the strongest Saiyan, but in the matter of an hour, she met a Saiyan who could not only defeat Hit, but could also defeat Jiren, who is the strongest mortal she's ever seen as well. So that is her goal now, to be as strong as Goku. Vados looks at her with a smile and says, you know what? I'll come back and pick up Kale for you and bring her to Universe 7. But if it is revenge that you're seeking for the stuff that happened during the Tournament of Power, well, then you will need Potara. Vados says when she returns to pick up Kale, she'll go by the Kai and pick up some Potara earrings, giving it to Kale, bringing her to Universe 7 just in case. Champa objects, saying, Vados, are you crazy? She stole the Potara earrings in the first place. This is insane. The Universe 6 squad lands in Universe 7, and the first thing that Champa does is start yelling at Kaba because Kaba runs off to say hi to, you know, Vegeta, Sensei Vegeta, and the Universe 7 counterparts, and Champa tells them, we're here specifically for the food competition, don't forget. After speaking with Vados, Whis tells them that after the food competition, he is going to take Kaba to Vegeta for their special training. We suggest that the training that Caulifla and Goku should be doing is probably on a normal planet similar to Earth, or better yet,
King Kai's planet because nothing's going on there, so they could probably train really good there, similar to how Goku trained in Dragon Ball, which it feels like Caulifla's getting that special permission to go to King Kai's planet. She's grandfathered into that training program. Remember back in early Dragon Ball Z that Goku going there was like this huge feat, and now Caulifla's just entering it in because Goku's there. Vados agrees with Whis' suggestion and takes Caulifla to Goku. Caulifla and Vados arrive a few minutes later on King Kai's planet, only to find that Goku is already ready to meet them, and he says, "It's been a long time, Caulifla." And Caulifla says, "It has, Goku." And you can see that on Caulifla's face. She's a little bit nervous as to meeting Goku. I guarantee you that the Universe 6 Saiyans have a very high regard, a very high praise to the Universe 7 counterparts. That's why Kaba sees Vegeta as such a huge sensei. And Caulifla, even though she's arrogant and stubborn, she probably would be a little nervous around Goku, who she admires. Vados begins to depart and tells them that she's gonna go and pick up Kale. And Goku's like, "Kale's coming? Kale wants to train?" If only Goku knew the half of it. You know what I'm talking about. Yes, she's gonna train, but it's gonna take me some time to go and pick her up. So stay here on King Kai's planet until I return. Goku agrees, and we are off to the races at the very beginning of Goku Trains Caulifla. Except you guys are probably wondering to yourselves, wait a minute, Goku didn't stay on King Kai's planet. Goku went all over the goddamn place, went to where Vegeta and Kaba were, they went out into the woods, into fields, they went all over Earth. Well, that's true. Goku didn't do what Vados asked him to do, he completely forgot about Vados. Caulifla cannot stand it anymore and transforms into her Super Saiyan 2 form, and she says, "You will teach me Super Saiyan 3 now." And Goku says, "Well, first let's calm down. Let's see how much you've gotten stronger since the Tournament of Power." And that's when we come back to present day. This is the point of the story where we have just witnessed the fight between Kefla and Gotenks. And Vegeta says, "Yeah, I understand the story thus far." And Goku's like, "Piccolo, why do you have that look on your face?" Piccolo, with anger, confusion, and frustration on his face, says, "I got this look because of you. You were told by Vados to wait this entire time on King Kai's planet." And that's when Piccolo starts freaking out on Goku, saying that she told you to wait on King Kai's planet, and yet you've literally been on his planet and traveled all throughout Earth, including Capsule Corp, and completely ignored and forgotten a order from an angel. You have no regard for the hierarchy of this multiverse at all, Goku. You need to listen and pay attention to what she's telling you. Like, he's completely flipping out. Of course, Piccolo is the one that has a huge regard. You know, him being sort of divine himself with Kami in him, he's the one that has a lot of regard for the deities. Remember when he was afraid of the Supreme Kai? It's because he knew who he was. So it makes sense that he would be the one that would be scolding Goku for just being so absent-minded and not listening or obeying an order from an angel. Piccolo says that Goku needs to be trained himself in understanding not only his surroundings, but paying attention to what people say, people's moods, what their intentions are, what comes off of them, their feelings, because right now he has completely disregarded an angel and he's completely insulted her. So Piccolo is completely laying into him, and Kaba, Kale, and even Caulifla is like, "This is probably a conversation you guys should be having in person." And Goku agrees that, and he apologizes that, yeah, he probably should have been paying attention further. Kale is surprised that the two warriors, the fused warrior that she ended up facing, was actually the kids of Goku and Vegeta. And Kaba explains that if Caulifla had defeated Goten and Trunks, then she would have a chance to fight the united warrior between Goku and Vegeta. Goku's trying to push Vegeta in this direction that, hey, I mean, you know, we said if Caulifla wins against Goten and Trunks, and Kefla technically won against Gotenks, so I mean, that means that we are able to fuse and fight them. Goku just wants to fuse with Vegeta, turn into either Vegito or Gogeta, and fight against either Caulifla or what I'm assuming could be also Kefla. Piccolo chimes in and agrees with Goku that technically, yeah, Kefla is Caulifla and Caulifla did win. Goku really wants to fuse into Vegito, but he says that Vegeta has to agree that the fight consensus was that Caulifla ended up winning, and so they're waiting for Vegeta's confirmation, but Vegeta is pissed off because he thinks this is basically cheating. Caulifla says that you can decide that I lost because the original bet was that she was going to defeat Goten and Trunks, and that was not what happened. She needed the help of Kale to defeat Gotenks. Goku and especially Vegeta are shocked at this, and Caulifla continues by saying that Kaba was essentially dead to rights, and without Kale and Potara, she would not have defeated Goten. Using the Potara is essentially cheating. And it looks like Caulifla is really down on herself for not being able to defeat these children, and if she can't defeat them on her own, she definitely can't fight Vegito. So this is exactly what we were saying like chapters ago, episodes and episodes ago, that Caulifla stands no chance against Vegito or Gogeta, and so what's the point? She would have to fuse into Kefla to even stand a chance, which would really be cool to see, but it doesn't seem like that's what Caulifla really wanted to do. Piccolo mocks Caulifla and says, is it because you needed the help of another Saiyan that your part of the win isn't a win at all? Is that the pride of the Saiyans that you can't even take the win without taking it alone? Caulifla responds with, not at all. The best win is the one you do on your own, but if I have to, I will use the help of my friends, and that is essentially what fusion is. But she chose to use fusion because she really just did not want to lose, and that isn't fair to the original bet. But she is happy that she did fight Gotenks with Kefla because she learned something brand new that she wouldn't have learned otherwise, because if she would have fought Gotenks alone, Gotenks would have never taught her this brand new thing because he would have never been pushed to this limit to use it. She originally thought that coming to this universe would be making her more powerful. She could continue to train all the way to the top, imitating Goku and training with him to get stronger and stronger, and that was her only goal, to spring up and become even more powerful in this universe. So I told you guys that this was going to correlate with the flashback that we got in the last episode, because she is just dead focused on becoming more powerful and chasing Goku throughout his training. So she came here for that aspect, but it seems like there's something that's gnawing at her after she fought Gotenks that really has put everything into perspective and made everything much more clearer. That's when she accuses Goku of blatantly lying to her, and Goku is confused, but I feel I know where she's going with this. Now, you guys in the comment section below, let me know what Goku lied about. If you guys have been paying attention at all through Goku Trains Caulifla, specifically the fight between Kefla and Gotenks, you guys probably caught on to what Goku lied about and exactly why Caulifla seems to be hurt here, because there is something that's glaring, not only from the first episode of Goku Trains Caulifla, but all the way through the fight with Gotenks, that shows exactly why Goku has really not been telling 100% of the truth. Just think back to that first episode. I'm going to give you guys a second. Leave me that comment if you guys got it. Let's go. Gotenks can become Super Saiyan 3 as well, and she thought this entire time this was a transformation that was solely Goku's, and yet Gotenks also knows it. So this is harkening back to the beginning episode of Goku Trains Caulifla, the first chapter, where Goku was trying to train Caulifla in how she can become Super Saiyan 3 and what she needed to become that, and why Goku really was the only one that had it. So at the time, Goku didn't tell her anything about Gotenks, but she did learn that she would need to be in King Kai's planet to learn Super Saiyan 3, because it was such a highly divine ability and transformation that really drew out all there was of the Super Saiyan, but because it was pushed against its limit in such a divine and godly world, Goku was able to harness all that and become a Super Saiyan 3. So Goku completely forgot that Gotenks can also go Super Saiyan 3, and Caulifla feels now that he has been lying to her.
Did your sons also go to King Kai's planet to train as well? What's the answer, Goku? Because as of right now, I feel like you are lying to me, that you have to go to this divine world to learn Super Saiyan 3. So Caulifla doesn't think that Goku sent those boys there to train, so there has to be another way to become a Super Saiyan 3 that doesn't involve going to the afterlife. Well, there is another way you can become Super Saiyan 3, and that is the Room of Spirit and Time. And this brings out the curiosity in Caulifla because she's never heard of this. And if it's a faster, easier way to learn Super Saiyan 3, which originally is what she came down here to do, then she's going to take that opportunity. And it seems like Super Saiyan 3 could really be that one level that could push the Universe 6 Saiyans past that wall to even gain an advantage on the Universe 7 Saiyans. So obviously she's pissed off because in the first episode, Goku basically said that it was something you could only learn in the afterlife, really. And now she's finding out that you can learn it in this dimension, which I would be pissed off too. I mean, that was really the whole point of this, and now Goku's finally being honest with her.
Piccolo begins to stretch right before he's about to face off against Caulifla, even saying as much, saying that he needs to stretch a little bit before the rumble begins. And Caulifla throws a little bit of shade and says that it's good that he ended up throwing away the body armor because now his power has gone up by a good margin and he's actually a challenge for her. And as they both begin to power up, Goku asks Kaba, in his point of view, how much of a difference in power does Caulifla have against Piccolo? Now, a lot of people have done versus matches with Piccolo and have power scaled him to a really high degree, and I would like to be one of those that condones this sort of behavior because I like Piccolo a lot. I think that he has done training for the majority of Dragon Ball. He's never fallen off, and he has been the GOAT. Really underrated, and I'm glad that he got some shine in Dragon Ball Super's Tournament of Power, but is he a match against Caulifla? From the onset, I do believe that Piccolo is more than a match for a Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla because I believe that he is stronger than a Super Saiyan 2 at this point, or at least on that same wavelength. Plus, he's got a lot more hacks and abilities that Caulifla is just not ready for unless she ended up training against the Namekian counterparts in Universe 6. Kaba says that it is hard to tell because both of them are suppressing a lot of their ki, but if we had to go through a scaling system between 1 to 10, Kale finishes the thought for him and says that Caulifla is going to be a 10 and Piccolo is going to be a 7, which of course Kale is going to be ride or die for Caulifla. You guys have seen enough of the Dragon Ball fan mangas and stories that I've covered that have them being extremely close. So of course she's going to back herself some Caulifla. But is this accurate? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think that Caulifla is that much more powerful than a Dragon Ball Super Piccolo? Let me know, guys. Vegeta then asks, with their points of view, how much of a difference in power does Caulifla have in comparison to both Goku and Vegeta? Obviously separated, because if they're both together then that doesn't really make a fair fight, but he's talking more in a sense of power. And Kaba says in reality it is completely immeasurable how far Caulifla is from Goku and Vegeta, which absolutely makes sense. But at the same time, are Goku and Vegeta that much more powerful than Piccolo, like to that extent? I think that they are extremely powerful and far more powerful than Piccolo, but not like I don't think immeasurable. I think that Piccolo still has a few tricks up his sleeve, and I'm hoping that in Dragon Ball Super he gets a brand new form or something, because he needs to be able to contend with the Saiyans at this point, and I hope that he absolutely does. Vegeta then gives his own headcanon as to what these powers are going to be between Caulifla and Piccolo, and he says that his opinion is that Caulifla's at a 9 and Piccolo's at a 7 in power, but the huge variant here is that a Saiyan and Namekian are extremely different. While Namekians are more durable, Saiyans are more powerful. So Namekians have, again, like I said earlier, a lot more tricks up their sleeves that Caulifla may not be ready for. Kaba explains to Vegeta then that Caulifla should have the utmost advantage in this battle because of her raw strength and power, plus the fact that she is very versatile in her abilities. She is a warrior, a very cunning warrior at that. But Vegeta responds that that's not it. Vegeta says that there isn't really a huge difference in power between Caulifla and Piccolo, even if you put numbers attributed to their power. It's not like the difference between Caulifla and Goku and Vegeta. It's far closer. So if Piccolo makes some good moves and Caulifla makes some missteps, then Piccolo will absolutely win this match. Just so you guys don't think I'm ignoring this, I can see that they're fighting in the background and they're sparring, and just from looks alone, it does seem that Caulifla's having a little bit of trouble with Piccolo. Even though she's smiling, her face tells it all, but Piccolo seems like he's actually going pretty serious right now without powering up. Vegeta is certain that Piccolo is going to fill the gap. He is going to close in the power difference between Caulifla and himself, but Kaba isn't so sure that he can, because the difference, even though Vegeta says it's not that big, it's not that small either. And Kaba sees the same thing that I see. He says you can just see it, which is true. I just explained it. Caulifla looks like she's having an easier time and taking it less seriously than Piccolo is. But that is when Piccolo turns it up a notch and powers up, and Caulifla says it is about time. But Piccolo wants to get down to brass tacks. He wants to know the clear rules of winning, as opposed to the last match he just witnessed, where there really weren't any clear rules and everybody was doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. In this one, he wants to have a clear motive. So if you faint or surrender, then that is a loss. And he wants to add, even if you get pressed on the ground for 5 seconds and cannot get back up, then that is also a loss. Very similar to wrestling rules. Which I do like that Piccolo is smart enough to add this stuff in here, because I don't think he really wants to go to, like, you know, passing out or anything like that to figure out a winner. If the fight is going a good way, then Piccolo could easily pin Caulifla, but he doesn't really want to kind of beat the shit out of each other and have that be the deciding factor. And as a true Saiyan, Caulifla's like, the pinning rule seems a little silly. And Piccolo explains himself. If there isn't a way to settle the fight quickly, then the fight will go on forever. And that's not something that Piccolo is ready for, honestly. So it looks like Piccolo may have a stamina disadvantage, and he's trying to fill that up with his rule. That's what I'm thinking, that he thinks that Caulifla has way more stamina than he does. And he believes that Caulifla is thinking the exact same thing, but he says that he's just putting that rule there just to have it. But trust me, he's gonna go all out and show her exactly what a Namekian from Universe 7 can do, because he is intent on winning the fight through brute force and technique. Relieved, Caulifla says good, because she is ready to beat his green behind and put him into the metaphorical dirt of the hyperbolic time chamber. Caulifla has found out that this is one of the only realistic ways, short of dying and going to King Kai's planet, of trying to transform into a Super Saiyan 3. Now, it isn't 100% guaranteed that she can transform into Super Saiyan 3 while in the time chamber, but this is her best bet, and that is the reason that she is in here. But while she's in here, Piccolo decided, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take a piece of this, and I want to jump in on the action and have some fun, and that is where we left off. Goku gives the reins of mentorship to Piccolo yet again, and Piccolo fights the Super Saiyan 2 Universe 6 Saiyan in the Room of Spirit and Time, both of them pushing themselves and transforming into their ultimate forms to see who can come out on top. Let's go ahead and jump right into the brand new chapter. In Super Saiyan 2, Caulifla charges Piccolo and gives him a flurry of jabs and punches, basically making it so he can barely respond. But Piccolo finds an opening and tries to blast her at close range, but she swiftly dodges out of the way and comes back in for another barrage. Now, Caulifla in Super Saiyan 2, I would say even if Piccolo was around the exact same power level, you know, just hypothetically power scaling right off the top of my head, I still think that Super Saiyan 2 Edge, the Super Saiyan Edge in general, will give you that speed component even if their strengths are very similar. Do you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So I think that this is realistic in the depiction of exactly how a Caulifla versus Piccolo fight would actually go. And just want to give a little detail here that Piccolo's got 3 fingers in this, so shout out to old school Piccolo hands. But Caulifla is relentless, and she pops up right in front of him again, punching him again. She is not letting go, she is not giving up, and she is having Piccolo basically on the rebound right now. But Piccolo is no rookie, he is a seasoned fighter, and because Caulifla just keeps being so close, he ends up using an I-beam to try to get her off. I really don't think that he thought this was going to hit her, because it absolutely does not. She dodges out of the way, and this was just a way, again, to create some distance, because Piccolo tries to shoot another beam at her, and she swiftly dodges it again, coming back in for another barrage. Now, this panel on its own gives you exactly what the recipe of each of these fighters' success and their strengths are, and what their weaknesses are. So essentially, Caulifla is a close-range fighter, and I would say most Saiyans on the whole are mainly close-range fighters because they have the advantage of the Super Saiyan transformation that just enhances those skills, those hand-to-hand combat skills. But Piccolo, specifically in this scenario, it looks like his strength is distance. He's trying to keep Caulifla off of him because I don't believe that he thinks that he can go toe-to-toe with her in a close-range duel. So he's trying to keep her off, and maybe his range attacks are a lot stronger. This is a very classic Xenoverse 2 situation when you're building your character, whether you want one that is close range or long range or medium range. And so Caulifla isn't giving him many options here because she is just dive bombing him with attack after attack. Kale and Kaba are both just astounded at Piccolo's prowess here, because Kaba says that with the Super Saiyan 2 transformation, he thought this was going to be extremely one-sided, where Caulifla was just going to raffle stomp all over Piccolo. He had no idea that Universe 7's Piccolo was so powerful. So I believe that because she's kind of known Namekians before the 2 Universe 6 ones, I think that Piccolo is far more powerful than both of those. So she has a reference to go by, and that is why she is saying this. And then Kaba iterates exactly what I've been saying this whole time, and that is that Caulifla keeps trying to push a ground combat with Piccolo, trying to get in close and have him slip up in hand-to-hand melee, but Piccolo keeps checking her with key attacks, key blasts, trying to get her off of him, and it is working for the most part, but Caulifla is gradually getting used to it, so it's only a matter of time for her to really close that range and kind of push Piccolo back on her footing. And even Goku remarks that now you're seeing the difference between how a Saiyan fights and how a Namekian fights, when a Namekian is a master of his craft. And Kaba realizes that Caulifla's main strength is close quarter combat. So the fact that Piccolo keeps pushing her away isn't good for her if he actually succeeds,
and that is when Caulifla rushes into Piccolo. She's been waiting for an opening, and Piccolo is charging up a larger Ki Blast, and so now is her chance to go in for the knockout punch. Unfortunately for Caulifla, this was not a Ki Blast that Piccolo was charging. He was actually about to stretch his arms, and he has pushed Caulifla away from him, effectively giving him that distance that he needed. And Caulifla even mentions to herself that she completely forgot that the Namekians can stretch out their limbs, but before she even realizes it, it is entirely too late, and she is trapped within one of Piccolo's signature moves, and it looks like even Caulifla realizes it to herself. Where did these come from? Well, yeah, these are all those blasts that you kept dodging. They were not meant to hit you. They were meant to push you away and create this Ki mine field. And Caulifla is stuck right now in the middle of it. Goku immediately realizes what Caulifla did wrong, and she was too focused on attacking Piccolo, not looking around her surroundings, and on top of that, way too full of herself against a Namekian foe. I'm assuming she thought she had it in the bag, similar to Kaba, because she is a Saiyan, against Namekians, because they have experience with Namekians. They know the power levels of Namekians, and so yeah, they thought that this was going to be an easy win. But right now, Piccolo has Caulifla completely trapped, and it is up to her and her wits alone to get her out of it. Caulifla finally getting it, she realizes that all the blasts that had missed her, that she had dodged, those are now around her, surrounding her. He had kept them all up while she was relentlessly attacking him. At the same time, he was a few steps ahead of her while she was on step 1, and she even compliments him on the fact that he is a very battle-hardened and strategic Namekian. Piccolo jabs back and says that once he realized all she was doing was attacking, it was easy to completely outmaneuver her. Her fighting style is immature, and that is why he is winning. And Caulifla responds with, "Is that so? Even though you have me surrounded, I can blast almost half of these out of the sky, and the remainder, if they hit me, they won't be a decisive hit. I'll take some damage, but they're not gonna put me out of the fight." And she brings up a very good point that this attack isn't really that powerful. The whole point is for all of them to hit you at once, destroying you with multiple barrages. But if she blasts half of them out and then, endures the rest of them, this attack is rather meaningless. You didn't think this was all I had. And Caulifla immediately realizes the danger that she's in as Piccolo puts both his fingers to his forehead. It is special beam cannon time. In an absolute beautiful panel, you see Piccolo charging up the special beam cannon, and immediately Caulifla realizes the danger she's in, and she is going to shoot him down, attack him head on with a blast. But Piccolo's hand maneuvers the blast just in the nick of time, smashing right into her and blowing up. He is going to stop her from even being able to move, and holding her still with the blast surrounding her, and then hitting her with a special beam cannon. This is a checkmate. Even Piccolo says if you want to surrender, now is the time. And he apologizes in advance for the injury that she is about to suffer, because that special beam cannon attack is going to maybe even give her a mortal wound. So he asks, "What will you do?" But Caulifla never gives up, and Piccolo says, "Well, don't hate me even if you die, because this is a battle to the death." Caulifla thinks to herself that these attacks coming in all directions are rather troublesome, and they're meant to keep her in place so that way he can hit her with the main very deadly attack. And actually, these Ki balls that are surrounding her are very similar to the ones that the Namekians from Universe 6 use in the Tournament of Power, she says, and she remembers them being relatively quickly, so she can't even really make quick movements to dodge them because another one would blast right behind her. She thinks to herself that with the technique that he's using, the special beam cannon, that if he shoots it, he will be vulnerable right after the shot. So he only really has one shot to kind of get her, and that is the attack she really needs to focus on dodging. and if she dodges it, she can come in and hit him, and the attack seems like it is ready. Even Vegeta says it is time. What will she do? So Caulifla comes up with a plan. She is going to endure with her spirit all the blasts that are coming at her with the smaller ki blast, the ki balls. If they come in, she is going to sustain the damage and focus mainly on the special beam cannon. Once he shoots the special beam cannon, she is going to try her best to avoid it, and once he is vulnerable, she is going to move in with haste, even if she's weakened from the blast, and beat him down viciously to finally put him in the dirt. And that is the best that she can come up with. But first she would have to dodge the special beam cannon, which I'm not sure that she can. It's finally time, and Piccolo directs all the ki blasts in the surrounding area to attack Caulifla at once. Piccolo is trying to hit Caulifla with all those blasts, keeping her in place. That way he can hit her with the special beam cannon. Now Caulifla in the last chapter really only had one of two choices, which was either try to go for the special beam cannon and get hit by all the blasts, preventing her from maneuvering out of the way from the cannon, or she could fully take the blast on her own terms and then try to see the special beam cannon coming at her and dodge it. So which way is she going to maneuver? And of course she goes with the second choice, blocking all the blasts. They all hit her, but yes, she is able to withstand it because she braced herself, and at the same time she is trying to see through the blast, through the smoke and the explosions, to see the special beam cannon coming, and she does. She sees it coming through all the debris, and it's coming directly right at her. In the matter of half a second, she narrowly escapes the special beam cannon, and Goku staring at her because he is realizing that Caulifla is now pushing herself on a completely different level and wavelength than she was previously. She was able to basically take all those blasts because she traded it off. She realized she had been trapped. Piccolo had her dead to rights, and either she was going to take the entirety of all the volley of the blast, trying to get away from the special beam cannon and get extremely severely hurt and still get hit by the special beam cannon, or she could brace herself, take the impact, and then try to avoid the special beam cannon at that point, because those little tiny ki blasts were not going to do really much of anything to her besides keeping her there. And so she maneuvered out of the way, and she has another trick up her sleeve. She points and directs her fingers toward Piccolo, and this is by no means a special beam cannon, but this is exactly the same attack that Goku used on Caulifla and Kale in the Tournament of Power when he was Super Saiyan God, and it looks like she is mimicking this exact technique and making Goku a proud master. And as we see here in this panel, she shoots the spirit gun, for lack of a better name, right at the same time as a special beam cannon is blowing right past her, and she thinks to herself, this is going to hit because he did not calculate that I was going to be able to attack so quickly. And she is correct in this. If she was fighting any other opponent, then yes, this would absolutely work. And even though this blast isn't as strong as a special beam cannon or as lethal, it would have still hit Piccolo unguarded without having any protection up, and that would have been it. Piccolo would have been hit blindsided, leaving Caulifla enough room to go in for the kill. Unfortunately for Caulifla, she's fighting Piccolo, and at the moment that Caulifla shot her attack, Piccolo appears right behind her, and Caulifla here is realizing in the moment that Piccolo has double stepped her. He is behind her, and he is ready to knock her out in one blow. Piccolo was ready with a counterattack to Caulifla's counterattack, and this just shows the lethality and how much of a powerful and strong character Piccolo is throughout this entire series, and why he is a master tactician compared to everyone else because of shit like this. This honestly gave me goosebumps when I saw it, and it is by far my favorite panel in this chapter. Vegeta thinks to himself, she's done, and the strike is about to hit Caulifla's neck.
This is the span of a few seconds that this is happening, that Piccolo had all this set up, and that Caulifla is basically reacting to it. It just shows the power and speed of these characters. Like in Dragon Ball Z, when you're seeing Goku and Cell fight and everybody else is kind of like looking back and forth, like trying to watch and keep up with the fight. That's kind of what's going on here. They're moving so fast that only themselves are able to gather the weight of each decision that is made in this battle. Caulifla goes flying toward the ground but lands on her feet. And Piccolo thinks to himself, no way, I did not believe that she would react to my current attack. So that means during the microseconds that Piccolo was about to karate chop the back of Caulifla's neck, she countered it essentially. She turned around and blocked it with her wrists, making it so Piccolo just slammed her to the ground and she isn't out of the fight yet.
Vegeta finally realizes that it was always Piccolo's plan to knock Caulifla out quickly. And Kappa asks, you mean during the Hell Zone grenade attack? And Vegeta says no, it was far before that. It was when Caulifla and Piccolo were facing off in hand-to-hand combat. That is when Piccolo realized he needed to knock her out quickly. Piccolo realized that if he continued hand-to-hand combat with Caulifla, if he stood his ground against her, he would ultimately lose. So when Piccolo decided to go hand-to-hand with her originally, he thought that maybe Caulifla was a distance fighter, only to figure out that Caulifla's strength was in close combat, and from that moment he kept trying to push her away, but Caulifla, being the fierce combatant, hand-to-hand combatant that she was, she kept closing the gap. So essentially what Vegeta is saying is that Piccolo had no idea how Caulifla was going to fight, and he was testing her out throughout the match, trying to see any of her weak spots, if she's a long distance fighter, if she's a short distance fighter, or is she a mix of the two, only to quickly realize that not only was she a deadly first contact close combatant, but at the same time she wasn't going to let up any room because she had a weakness when it came to distance fighting, something that Piccolo excelled at. Goku jumps in and says that Piccolo was developing a strategy, essentially trying to entrap Caulifla for the future, and as they were fighting hand to hand, he kept shooting beams at her, trying to keep her at her distance, but knowing that she would easily dodge them. But he was setting up a minefield for his special attack Hell Zone grenade, ultimately leading to him pushing her back, getting her entangled, and setting her up in the middle of his attack. So even Goku knew a little bit more about Piccolo's strategy, and now that he saw how it all played out, essentially Piccolo's strategy worked exactly how he laid it out, but he didn't get the last bit, because if you remember in the last chapter, Piccolo hit Caulifla, but her reaction speed was so quick that she was able to block the hit, so that way it did damage, but it didn't knock her out. Piccolo tells Caulifla that she did good, but Caulifla cuts him off and says, weren't you afraid that I was going to be able to dodge not only the special beam cannon and the Hell Zone grenade at the same time if I was stronger? And Piccolo says, well, if you were able to do that, then you would have done that. And because you didn't, you're obviously not at that level yet. So I've gauged how strong you are at this moment. And although you are a powerful Super Saiyan 2, you're not beyond my abilities to hit. Piccolo continues and says that he knew exactly where she was going to move because he was aiming his Hell Zone grenade balls at a precise spot on her body, pushing her in a direction to avoid, and that way he would know exactly which direction she was going to go. And that is how his whole plan came together, because he knew exactly where she was, and his surprise attack took her especially by surprise because he knew where she was throughout the entire smoke. But her reaction speed
speed was something that Piccolo not only didn't calculate that she would be reaction-wise at the same level as Goku and Vegeta, but at the same time he didn't have anything to combat that. So when he tried to knock her out and she turned back around, he wasn't able to do anything else besides strike her where he had already originally intended, and that is something that didn't end up happening where she was knocked out. She just fell onto the ground and that was the end of the fight. But I would say that because she was forced to essentially hit the ground and now they're just kind of talking, I would assume that Piccolo won that fight. Piccolo says that he had gotten used to her reaction time and her intuition throughout the match, so he didn't realize that she, in a moment of about to be knocked out, was able to push her reaction time way further than it had been originally, basically to its limits, and then block his fatal blow. And even though Caulifla was able to react at the exact same time that he really didn't want her to, and he wasn't able to knock her out, he explains to Caulifla that if she was facing off against a much stronger opponent, then she would absolutely lose because she tends to go in head first, similar to Goku and to a lesser extent Vegeta, and so they are much stronger warriors and she needs to focus on other aspects of her abilities. She needs to work on her long distance, her mid-range, really think things through, setting up opponents in traps like he did. And Caulifla kind of looks down to herself thinking, and then puts her head back up with a smile and says, I surrender, I lose. I absolutely lose. And for the first time in my life, I am not upset to have lost because I've never fought another opponent that was this tactical before. I had never been outsmarted in such a way, and she gives high praise to Piccolo, which is something that I really want to see. It is true that she's lost a couple times already, but most of the time she's kind of pissed off that she did lose, especially against Gotenks. But with Piccolo, she was just so outplayed, almost like in a chess match, that she kind of is giving him the honor of, yeah, you did good. And she is completely smitten by Piccolo at this point. And of course Piccolo accepts her surrender, and Piccolo absolutely wins the fight at this point. And I like it. I like the way that it's gone. I like that Piccolo was far more strategic and tactical than Caulifla could ever hope to be. And I'm hoping that the next matches are in a very similar lean toward the strength of whatever opponent it is. I like strength and fighting and power-ups and head-to-head, but like this one, strategic. The Gotenks ones had some strategic elements to it, but he was far stronger than Caulifla and Kaba were, so you know he was always at that level. But Piccolo, he isn't as strong, but he's a lot more tactical, and he could have won if her reaction time wasn't pushed to the limit and she didn't block that attack. Caulifla calls Kaba and Kale over to learn from Mr. Piccolo. She says learn from him, he's got some choice words and he knows about tactics. You guys need to talk to this guy. And that's when Goku says, Vegeta, you okay with this? Kaba is your student. And Vegeta says Piccolo is by far one of the most powerful warriors on this planet, and in himself he is also a master. So Kaba would be smart to learn anything that he can from the Namekian. And these words, this praise from Vegeta, I just want to see Vegeta and Piccolo fight at some point. They've never fought at all, and it's crazy to think about, but they never have. So I would love to see something like that in the future. But this sort of statement, blunt statement, shocks Goku a little bit. He's like, wow, you think Piccolo's a master? And Goku says, I never thought you felt that way. We cut back to Dende's lookout, where we see that Dende is healing Caulifla's wounds. If you guys remember, also in that fight between her and Piccolo, Piccolo basically took no damage. He was on the ropes when they were close quarter combat, but Piccolo was blocking most of her abilities and she never got a hit, like a really solid one on Piccolo. And Piccolo hit her not only a bunch of times with his Hell Zone grenade, but he also struck her in the back, almost knocking her out if her reaction speed hadn't been increased to her limit. So yeah, Piccolo really did a number on her that Dende needed to heal her, and right now she's super thankful that Dende was able to do so. And that is when everyone hears the voice of Beerus. Whis explains that tomorrow morning on Earth time, he is going to come with Beerus to Earth. And Beerus explains that yes, make sure you guys have a special feast for us when we get there. Of course, Goku agrees. Beerus says, see you again. This seems like the story is coming to a close because Caulifla is only there to train with Goku for I think only a few days, and then she was to return back to Universe 6. So it looks like Whis is actually coming to pick her up, so she only has 1 day left. And that's exactly what Kaba asked, and Dende explains the exact same thing, that they only had a limited time of being there and they're about to go back. And so Dende makes it clear that if there's anything else that Caulifla would like to do, anyone she would like to fight, anything she would like to train on or ask, then she only has 1 more night there, so she might as well make the most of her time. He assures her that anything that she wants, both Goku and Vegeta will make it clear and make it certain. So if she's got a question, they will answer it. If she wants to do something, they will absolutely be on that. And Caulifla thinks deeply. She asks herself, what do I want to know? And Caulifla looks like she's had something on her mind for quite some time, and now she's finally thinking about it, like only we'll have 1 more night, and there's no guarantee that they're gonna be doing any more of these trips in the future. Beerus has said so himself, so they may only have a limited time there. And Whis asks Beerus, so what are you going to do? And Beerus says, what do you mean? Well, Whis explains that if you give Caulifla more time, then you will learn more about Goku. So basically, Whis is asking Beerus, if you give them more training sessions, have them together more, or if you leave them there longer this time, then Caulifla will learn a lot more from Goku, and then Beerus will learn a lot more from Goku as well. This would strengthen the ties between both Universe 7 and Universe 6, and that seems like it could be a huge benefit. But Beerus doesn't see it that way. He says this is a little reward. He doesn't really care about uniting the universes at all. And so what does he actually care about? Beerus explains why he's going into this and why he decided to have the Universe 6 Saiyans in Universe 7, and that is because he believes that if Goku had not fought Kefla in the Universe 6 tournament, then he would have never gone Ultra Instinct again in the tournament leading up to the defeat for Jiren. So he had already gone Ultra Instinct against Jiren, but Beerus does not believe that if he would have faced Jiren again, he would have also gone Ultra Instinct for a second time. He doesn't believe that that's actually the case. So her introduction, the Universe 6 Saiyans, they push Goku beyond his limits to go Omen again, leading to Mastered Ultra Instinct. And that is something that Beerus wants to develop. That is the reason that he is letting this happen, because the Universe 6 Saiyans and Universe 7 Saiyans seem to be strengthening each other. And I'm not talking about a bonds way, I'm talking about a power way, a new abilities way, something that Beerus is actually interested in. And he even ends it with, thanks to that, Goku is 1 step closer to become my strongest opponent. So he is doing, and he's still looking for an opponent in Goku. And at this point now in the Moro arc, in the actual anime, I mean, I believe that Goku is on that Beerus level. But in this, Beerus is actively looking to fight Goku. So I like that there is like an outward specification for Beerus wanting to let all this stuff happen. I don't like it in the actual manga, Dragon Ball Super, where they're just there to kind of make the stakes nothing and just be really useless essentially, and ruining the story. I like this where Beerus is actively wanting to fight somebody. I mean, it goes back to the beginning of Dragon Ball Super where he was interested in fighting the Super Saiyan God. I feel like he's kind of lost that throughout the way. Caulifla walks up to Goku and asks him, Goku, I'm interested in something and I would like to ask you a question. And then she asks, I'm interested in the enemy that was so strong that you had to fuse with Vegeta to fight. Where is he? Goku says, well, I guess it's okay for you to meet Broly, and Piccolo starts to freak out. Piccolo yells, the Saiyan that came with Frieza to fight you guys and destroy the entire planet, that Broly? And Caulifla seems surprised, another Saiyan? Remember, to her knowledge, Goku and Vegeta and anybody who was on planet Earth, those are the last Saiyans left, so it would probably come to her as a sort of shock that there is another Saiyan alive, another Saiyan survivor out there in Universe 7. Piccolo tells Goku and Caulifla that it is too dangerous for them to go meet Broly, but Goku says, "Don't worry, I talked to him and he's not a bad guy. He was just following Frieza's orders because they were tricked by Frieza to believe that Vegeta needed to be destroyed." Piccolo says, "I'm not even talking about that." Piccolo says that Goku and Vegeta alone, they could not fight Broly and win, and they had to unite. So how are they going to have a failsafe if they end up provoking this guy and he transforms and it's just Goku there, or it's just Vegeta there, or they don't want to fuse? What happens then? He would feel much more comfortable if Goku and Vegeta by themselves were on Broly's level, which makes a lot of sense because like they aren't even close to Broly's level alone, and if Broly did get some training in, imagine how much stronger he would be. Now in the Dragon Ball Super manga, I would say that they are probably going toward that direction. Not sure if Vegeta's technique of taking away ki would work with Broly, but I know Master Ultra Instinct is definitely as strong or stronger than Broly, and probably as strong as Gogeta. So I'm wondering how this is going to play out and see exactly if Broly ends up transforming into his Berserker state. Caulifla's like, well, after hearing all that, now I have to meet this guy, the Saiyan that can defeat Goku and Vegeta single-handedly, and this power that you're saying, I need to see it. Caulifla is interested in the Hikari strength that she has no knowledge about because it is slightly different than the one that Kill has. Kill has a Berserker strength, a Berserker's power, and Broly has the Hikari strength. So it's like Universe 7's version of what Kill has, essentially, which is kind of strange because Kill is derived from Broly, and that's how she came into being, and now it's like vice versa, because we have never gotten any explanation as to what Kill has, if it's the Hikari, and the Hikari strength that Broly has is obviously far stronger. It's much more powerful, it is more primal, and it looks like Caulifla wants a piece of that. Piccolo is obviously worried, and Goku says, "Don't worry, Piccolo, I don't even know if he's still on that same planet," and ends up using instant transmission to double check. Vegeta backs up Goku with Piccolo and says that Goku knows all about dangerous things, and he's got a sense of Broly, so don't underestimate his intuition. The problem before was that we misunderstood the power of Broly and underestimated him. Now we know exactly where he stands. And on top of that, he doesn't have Frieza, and Broly doesn't have a grudge against Vegeta's dad anymore, so the situation seems to be under control, and Broly will probably not fight them. And if he does, then Vegeta will just have to defend himself. Piccolo snidely remarks, "Or you could just run away with Goku's instant transmission ability," and Vegeta says, "Hey." Then Piccolo says, "But I am curious to see how this is going to play out." And that is where we cut back to planet Vampa. Chilai asks Lemmo if he's found a suitable planet. Lemmo responds sarcastically with environments that aren't worse than planet Vampa, and that the Frieza Force hasn't claimed already, plus has enough food to have us survive there for more than a year. Yeah, the search isn't going great. Chilai says, "Well, keep searching, I know you'll find something." Oh wait, Broly's back. And Broly walks in with another Vampa spider on his back for dinner. Caulifla is on planet Vampa, and she is about to train with the one and only legendary Super Saiyan, Broly. Lemmo comments that there are a lot of people on planet Vampa right now, and this isn't entirely the best place for a picnic. And that is when Broly recognizes Vegeta right off the bat. He's the first one he notices, and he is a little bit startled, but Vegeta realizes that
he has caught Broly's attention and says, "Oh yeah, that's right. You have a grudge against me. Would you like to take care of it now?" Leaving Broly to begin to transform into the Hikaru state until Chilai snaps him out of it. Chilai reiterates, which is probably something that she said before, that Broly, you have a grudge against King Vegeta, not the son, the father. So don't forget that whenever you see Vegeta, because you are going into Hikaru. And that is when Goku essentially tells Vegeta the same thing: stop provoking Broly, we're not here for that. Leaving Chilai to ask, then why are you here? Coolly. Chilai hasn't totally warmed up to these guys yet. Goku stammering an explanation as to why they're there. Kaba leans over to Caulifla and asks, what do you think of him? And Caulifla, right off the bat, for the first time ever in this season, in this series, she says, I don't think I can beat him. And she has not said that about anyone that she has faced against. And she's fought the Titans of planet Earth. But Broly, she doesn't think she can defeat him. Looking over at Kale's worried expression, Caulifla asks, what's up? And Kale responds with nothing's wrong. But that's not what Caulifla asks. She asks what's up, not what's wrong. So she realizes that there's something going on there. And that is when we find out that there is an interloper, a spy from the Frieza Force, watching the entire interaction take place. I'm assuming that he is there watching Broly and Chilai and Lemmo, because Frieza said that they're going to keep an eye on them, so of course leaving a scout there makes sense. But it's cool to see that this small little dialogue from Frieza at the end of the Broly movie actually bears some fruit in this manga. Chilai, looking adorable in the design from DBZA, the author of this manga, says, I shouldn't even let you fight Broly. And Goku asks, quite sincerely, why? Can he not control his power yet, or can he control his power yet? Goku says he's not going to force Broly to do anything, or Chilai to do anything that they're not comfortable with. He's not going to force him to train with them. But he says that it is up to Broly to decide, not Chilai, Broly. So I understand where Goku and Chilai are coming from. Chilai has gotten a little bit protective over Broly and a little bit possessive, kind of, specifically at the end of the Broly movie, but it's to be understood. I mean, she loves Broly, even though they're not going out at this point, and she actually saved his life, so I can understand what's going on. Plus, these guys almost killed Broly in the movie, so I understand that, but Goku has a point. You can't decide these things for him. You're not his mom, you're not his dad, you're just his girlfriend, but not really. Chilai stares at Caulifla and asks, who even are these guys? Caulifla responds with, it's a long story. With a smug smile, Caulifla says, I'm the same as Broly, leaving Lemmo to freak out. Wait a minute, you guys can't be Saiyans, are you? Man, how many survived after the explosion of planet Vegeta? Kaba says he'll explain all of it much later, because they're not gonna go into all that right now. She walks right up to Broly and says, Goku's right, you can't tell somebody to fight or not to fight. They must choose that on their own, which is a really interesting thread here, because Broly has only been told what to do by his father for his whole life. So again, it makes sense that they're asking him to fight, but also makes sense that Chilai doesn't want him to. Kale stands up and says, I understand that you don't like to fight. I understand you don't want to fight, or you don't want him to fight. But sometimes it's about what you're fighting for that makes the difference. I am the same as you. I don't like to fight, and I was taught to fight for someone other than myself, and that was the decision I had to make. Kale coming in clutch with this talk for Broly makes it a little bit more clear that they are very, very similar, even though Chilai is giving her the death glare. Now I finally understand it, says Vegeta. Kale responds, understand what? It's quite simple, and I may be a little bit off, but hear me out. You two are not only just similar in character, but you are similar in Saiyan being, because you two are mutant Saiyans. You guys say you are Saiyans, but yet you don't have a tail. Kaba responds to Lemmo that we don't grow tails on Universe 6. We used to a long time ago, but not anymore. Lemmo responds, Universe 6? Essentially, just think of it as a universe parallel to this one with minor changes. they are one and the same, but a little bit different. By the way, where is Broly's tail? Broly theorizes that when he was young, he transformed into an Uzaru, lost himself, and his father was forced to cut it off to save himself. Although I still became lost several times after that, leading to the notion of Vegeta saying that Broly is a mutant Saiyan. Broly looks at Vegeta and asks, "Would you like some food?" Remember, he's still holding the leg of the Vampa spider. Vegeta ignores him and says, "So the power that you showed before is essentially the power of the Uzaru manifested in your being." Broly agrees and explains that's probably the reason that he couldn't control it, because it comes from a unreliable source. Caulifla says, "Uzaru?" She doesn't know what this stuff is. If a Saiyan with a tail sees a full moon, they transform into a giant monkey monster, and that is essentially what happens to all the Saiyans in Universe 7. But there are no tail, there are no full moons in place around Broly. There has never been a Saiyan that I know of that has been able to use the power of the Uzaru without either of those two things, without the blood waves going into their very being. So it is a mutation. Kaba dives deeper. Vegeta says maybe it's just an abnormal growth, something that accelerates your power and speed, but still gives you the negative traits of the Uzaru when not fully controlled. Everything about Broly is completely not standard with your average Saiyan. So Saiyans that actually have their tail intact are stronger than Saiyans without tails? Vegeta says, on the contrary, Saiyans without tails are able to dive deeper into their Saiyan biology, Saiyan genes, and become a lot stronger. Usually if the Saiyan's tail is cut off, it grows back right away, and it keeps growing back until the Saiyan becomes stronger without it than with it. If the time that the Saiyan spends without the tail, his power surges, then there is no need for the tail. Vegeta guesses that the Universe 6 Saiyans don't need tails anymore, they evolved beyond it because their ancestors were just like Vegeta and Goku and the Saiyans from Earth, where they trained their normal Saiyan bodies as opposed to relying on the grade 8 form, and their bodies had no use for it. Essentially, Vegeta says that there is evolution in the Saiyan race, and we've seen it throughout all of Dragon Ball Z, and it happened a long time ago on Universe 6. But if it's a mutation like Master says, then it wouldn't apply to Kale because of the fact that Kale never had a tail. Vegeta says that is a good way to look at it, but at the same time, if she had a tail, she could have gotten the same exact mutation that Broly has. The lack of a tail means that she could still get a lesser or different version of that mutation. Now Kaba is intrigued. What mutation are you talking about? With Kale looking on really cutely. Honestly, I like the way that Kale's designed here with her eyes being like clear, maybe green or something, because her eyes in the manga and the anime are black if I'm not mistaken. So I like that her eyes are a little bit lighter here. And Vegeta says Super Saiyan Hikaru or Super Saiyan Wrath. Vegeta is curious now. Let me ask you something, Kale, Kaba. When you transformed into a Super Saiyan, did you ever lose all reason to get that power, to go into that state? Did you ever lose yourself in the grasp of more power, which obviously Vegeta didn't watch the anime because that's not exactly how they went through it. There is no Saiyan that calls himself a Saiyan that goes into Super Saiyan by easy means alone. Super Saiyans fight against their own basic instincts while developing and training their bodies and their mind, gaining strength and reaching the limit and the ending of their training to become stronger. That's a Super Saiyan, one that goes beyond their limits, reaches their goals, and breaks them, going to new heights and raising new goals. That is what a Super Saiyan is. Vegeta got a little carried away in his monologue, but yeah, he's basically talking smack on the way that Kale and Caulifla and Kaba transformed into a Super Saiyan in the anime, but I don't think that he would know that because he doesn't know their story unless Kaba told him, and then he's like, nah, you guys did it the easy way by scientifically doing Super Saiyan. You have to do it the hard way. Vegeta says that there is only one logical answer as to what the mutation that both Broly and Kale have, and that is that they were both born with an extraordinarily high potential where they could always transform into a Super Saiyan from birth, but just didn't know how to do it. And that that build up throughout their life has led them to this moment when they finally do transform into their mutated states. They cannot control it at all. So basically learning how to control this or transform into a Super Saiyan much earlier on, maybe when they were children like Goten and Trunks, they would have a better control over the Hikari and the Berserker state at this point in time. They both met the conditions to transform into a Super Saiyan at birth. That is what their mutations underlies. That is what their mutations are. Caulifla mentions that she was able to control Kale herself. So is there really a big difference between the same mutation just from different universes? Kaba elaborates that the big monkey transformation, the age, the environment, the fact that Kale grew up with Kaba and Caulifla as acquaintances, or specifically as Caulifla as her best friend, all those situations made it so Kale could easily be controlled by Caulifla. Broly, on the other hand, seems to have been alone on this planet by himself with his father. Kale had a long life of communication with other Saiyans and her sister, her friend, but Broly only had this harsh environment and a harsh upbringing. Vegeta really doesn't know anything about that. He says he only is talking about the knowledge of the Saiyans that he knows, but at the end of the day, this is all speculation. Lemmo looks at Chilai and asks if she's okay. She's been quiet the entire time throughout this story, but these are the facts of the Saiyan lore. These are the facts of Broly's upbringing. Lemmo knows that it's difficult for Chilai to listen to this stuff because of the fact that she loves Broly so much, but it is what it is, and that is Broly's backstory, with Chilai acknowledging that fact, but it's still difficult for her to hear. Broly looks at Chilai and asks that she basically decipher and make the story that Vegeta and Kaba were saying easier for him to understand, because he really doesn't understand. And Chilai looks at him and smiles and says, "Yes, I will later." Caulifla looks over at them and says, "Well, at least he has friends now." But now that they got all that out of the way, Caulifla is ready to go and asks Broly, "Will you fight me?" Vegeta comments that Caulifla is in for a world of hurt because Broly is much stronger than her, but at the same time, Broly has not trained or fought or anything at all, while Caulifla, that's all she's been doing, literally since the beginning of this manga. So she does have an edge there. Even Goku says that Broly really hasn't trained or tried to physically maintain that ability, the Hikari state, for very long or try to control it, so it might be difficult facing off against him, but the training with Caulifla may actually help. Goku puts it plainly, "So you really want to see the strength of Broly?" to Caulifla, and Caulifla says, "Yeah, what should we do, since, he doesn't have much training?" And Goku basically tells her that what you need to do is, as soon as you fight Broly, you need to go in as serious as you can from the beginning. You'll always be a little bit stronger than Broly at first, because it takes him a little bit of time to gradually go into the Hikari state. Goku's a little stumped, because if Broly faces off against Caulifla, Broly goes in 110% as soon as the match starts, and he doesn't think that Caulifla can handle all of that. Although Broly doesn't lose himself right off the bat, he gradually loses himself throughout the fight, so he is still maintaining a lot of his will at the very start of this matchup. But if Caulifla goes in 110% right off the bat, then she may actually stand a shot to go toe-to-toe with Broly for a little bit until his power escalates. But Vegeta even says sarcastically that if Broly goes anywhere beyond a certain limit, he will be far stronger than Caulifla would ever hope to be. Goku asserts that the closer their powers match up at the start, the better chances that Caulifla will have to survive the entirety of the fight, however brief it may be. Goku is certain that Caulifla, at the very start, she could have a good amount of power going into it where they would actually meet eye to eye. But Goku does reiterate that he was worried before about this matchup, but at the same time, Broly's not a bad guy, so he doesn't think anything horrible is going to happen. Well, it can't be helped. This is a matchup against two Saiyan warriors. This is the fight that Caulifla has been searching for, and she is not going to hesitate in this battle, and she asks Broly not to hold back, which is a radical mistaken error. Without warning, Caulifla strikes Broly, surprising him as to how fast she actually is. He tries to attack back, but Caulifla easily dodges it, striking Broly again and dodging his blow, so she is on the offset quite faster than Broly. The kick that Broly blocked is easily grabbable, and he throws Caulifla right into the side of a cliff. And before Caulifla can even try to get up, he charges her point blank range, leaving a smile on Caulifla's face. But again, being much faster, she pops up right underneath him and kicks him right in the chin, rising up above him to come down with a pile driver. But within seconds, Broly double blocks it with his arms, and Caulifla sees the difference between her version of Berserker and the Universe 7 variant, and that is Hikaru. And one punch sends Caulifla flying as she struggles to regain her composure. Broly quickly follows it up with a devastating blast attack. Transforming into a Super Saiyan, she quickly grabs the blast and kinda just throws it away, to Broly's shock, as she yells to Broly focus because she's coming back in and she's trying not to get him while he's still shook. And it looks like she didn't actually throw it away, she held onto it and threw it right back at Broly as it explodes right in his face. He obviously blocked it, and Caulifla, as her hand is shaking, she says she absolutely felt that. Broly stands there with not even a scratch on him as Vegeta comments that nothing seems to be working, not even his own blast thrown at him. He is too tough. Kakarot, we should be on the lookout for Super Saiyan Hikaru. And Goku says, yup. And it looks like they are there for full support if Broly loses it and decides to go a little bit more into this battle with the Hikaru states. They want to prevent the risk of possibly losing Caulifla to complete and utter eradication.
Subscribe for more content. Or perish.